Are we going to have Peter or you?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Shall we? The Tuesday, May 9th, 2017 regular Board of County Commissioners meeting will now be called to order. We'll begin with a moment of silence and reflection for the first responders. We'll also have an invocation by Chaplain Louis Trop from the Indian River County Sheriff's Office, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chairman Peter O'Brien. Can we please rise? And once again, please join us for a moment of silence in support of all of our emergency responders who protect and serve and ensure our safety and our well-being.
Lord, we give you many thanks today for this beautiful county in which we live and for the leaders before us, for their wisdom and for the direction and guidance that you have given them. Lord, Ronald Reagan said that correction officers have the difficult and dangerous assignment of securing the custody and safety of over 600,000 inmates in our prisons and jails. Their essential day-to-day operations are impossible sometimes. Their goals of security and control are amazing. Lord, since that proclamation in 1984, not only have the number of inmates risen, making the correction officer's job more difficult, but also the types of drugs that cause combative behavior have multiplied. Today, we give honor and respect for what all law enforcement endures, the hours, the physical and mental toll, and sometimes verbal and physical abuse. We recognize correction officers and employees are a special breed. They deal with everything from the polite trustee to the inmates on drugs like flakka that get combative without a moment's notice. Your word says in Psalms 91:11, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." We pray for your continued guidance and protection because each day offers new challenges. Help them meet those challenges with the wisdom and the strength that you had given them. We pray this in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chaplain.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner. Next item on the agenda, is there any additions, deletions to the agenda, or emergency items? I understand that item 10B1 has been requested to be removed from the agenda by the requester, and that's in public discussion items. Is there anything further?
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
And that's a motion by Vice Chairman O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Solari. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a proclamation presentation, of proclamation designating the week of May 7th through May 13th, 2017 as Public Service Recognition Week in Indian River County. We were going to bring all of the employees to the County Commission, but we chose to leave the county open and operating, so we have a select few here to receive or represent, as customarily we do. So I want to call upon the county administrator to invite all those that are in attendance up, and if we can read off the list of attendees.
Okay, will do. Why don't you guys come on down if you could. We could get a whole group come down so you can. They're sometimes shy to take their recognition that they're due, but we got a good group of folks representing the county employees. So just go through the list here. We got Nancy Masali from the County Attorney's Office, Chris Hansen from Utilities, Jim DeGraffenreid from Utilities, Kathy Charist from Community Development, Rachel Ivy from Emergency Services, Jason Ogilvy from Animal Control, Jamie Coleman from Fire Rescue, Tim Gillette from Road and Bridge, Harvey Payne from Traffic, Hamilton Dwayne from Engineering, Judy Lay from Risk Management, Freddie Green with Parks, Woody Mayuga, I'm sure I butchered that, but Woody, I know Woody, from the IG department, or from the IG, John Frazier from Recreation, Katie Marlowe from North County Aquatic Center, Dane McDonald from Recreation, Tanya Huff from the library, John Clark from Sandridge, Holden Chris from the shooting range, Lisa Benito from Human Services, and Sheila Vazzi from General Services. So this is a small cross-section of the county employees who are out there doing the good work of the county every day, and the folks here make a difference in the quality of life in Indian River County, and a lot of them are doing yeoman's work and don't get recognition they deserve every day. So I think this is a great opportunity to provide that recognition, and we've got the best folks out there. So
They insisted on having their proclamation read first because they wanted to get back to work, and that says a lot. That's correct, right? I got that right? Okay, I want to make sure. And again, I want to ensure to the public that we appreciate everything that our employees do for this board, for the county, for the citizens. They put citizens first, and they're very committed individuals. And I urge my fellow commissioners, as I know you do, to pause for a moment when you see somebody out there and just thank them for what they're doing, because they have families, and sometimes they're not where they really need to be. They're doing good work for the citizens of Indian River County. So, and I want to thank you all. The proclamation reads as follows: designating May 7th through the 13th, 2017 as Public Service Recognition Week in Indian River County. Whereas public employees at the federal, state, and local levels conduct the public's business and perform essential services. And whereas public employees improve our quality of life through the efforts in many fields, including education, emergency management, public safety, transportation, natural resources, health and national defense, and whereas public employees dedicate themselves to the continuous improvement of the quality of life of all Floridians, and many, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, healthcare practitioners, and others who risk their lives every day in public service. And whereas the efficiency and effectiveness of government depends upon the public employees, ensuring government services are accessible and responsive to the diverse needs of our residents. And whereas the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners recognizes the dedication, talents, and contributions made by public employees working in all levels of government. And whereas Indian River County Board of County Commissioners appreciates our county employees who, by their example of achievements, are focusing on the highest standards of customer service. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the week of May 7th through 13th, 2017 be dedicated and observed as Public Service Recognition Week, and we encourage all Indian River County residents to recognize the men and women who serve at all levels of government for the betterment of our great county, state, and nation. Duly adopted this 9th day of May 2017 and signed by all 5 county commissioners. Now we have a large group here, a cross-section, and somebody's going to want to say something. Okay. They truly want to get back to work, don't they? Well, I want to say thank you, and I know that my fellow commissioners probably want to add a few words, because in our way of life, we get a lot of calls from the citizens, our constituents, with concerns, and sometimes they say thank you, and they'll express their appreciation, but the true thank you and appreciation goes to you, the people who actually get the job done. So if I haven't stop to see each and every one of you, we will. I want you to know that you're well appreciated, and we hear very positive comments on a weekly basis about all of your performance. Commissioners?
I'm very happy to thank everybody for all the work they do for the county. It's been said a number of times, but not too often. Actually, the county does as well as it does because of all the people who work here. We all appreciate that. But given that it's May, I want to give a special shout out today to Road and Bridge and Parks, who now for the next 4 or 5 months are going to be working under conditions which are really sort of hot and messy. So thank you for all the work you're doing over the next months to keep the county beautiful.
Mr. Chairman, I just find it amazing the cross-section of services to the public that's standing here before us, you know, from all the different recreational aspects, the IG Center and the shooting range, the golf course, the county pools, and all of the parks and recreations we offer. And then we have the life and health safety stuff, fire division and animal control. And then just the administrative side, you know, when the first time I was chairman and I got the first packet of things to sign, it was just amazing the process to get all that onto my desk for signature, and how the government worked, and all the folks responsible for that, from the legal department and community planning and just everything. You know, it's just everybody pulling together to make the county provide the services to the people, and y'all do a great job. You know, you make me proud, you know, when I'm out there and people talk to me, or they talk about road and bridge or recreation, or the experience they had in the permitting and planning and utilities. You know, they're all working hard, they're trying hard, they're great folks. Sure, we make a mistake once in a while, but it's not because we want to make a mistake, but we're just out there trying hard and serving the public, and you all just do a great job. So thank you very much for everything you do.
Sure. I just want to thank you guys for what you do. I'm the newer one, so I haven't been working with all of you that long, but I can say that the county has a great staff, and you guys do a fantastic job of making the county a better place and making our jobs easier. I know it's not always hard, it's not always easy, but you guys do it every day, and we couldn't do our jobs without you. So thank you very, very much, and I'm looking forward to being part of the team and working with you guys.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to all of you. Many of you I see frequently and have many special requests. Kathy, can you help run this particular report at 5 minutes to 5? Sometimes I don't plan it that way, it just turns out that way. But the folks down at IG, Recreation Emergency Services, I know some of you get to wear extra hats, especially during baseball season. Some of the recreation folks get to do a variety of extra duties down there in the field. The utility folks that quickly respond to whether I see a missing valve cover on a particular street that I send up to Vinny, and they respond back incredibly fast, getting the work done to limit liability to the public in different areas. And to all the folks that just really make this county work on a very stellar basis. When you look at other counties, and we as commissioners, we get to see some of the other places and how they operate, and I sometimes walk out, it's like, man, we've got such a good team of folks here, and I'm very proud of saying that we represent Indian River County and the great work that you guys do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're only one of 67 counties. Thank you for making us #1. You're the reason. Thank you. And someone's going to have to accept the proclamation.
Hey, good job. Yeah, Cinco de Mayo.
Thank you.
Here.
Missed you
I
a week-
know,
2
I was
weekends
at the
ago.
NRA meeting.
What's going on, Holden?
Good to see you again.
Oh, there we go. There's a taker. Hey, Woody.
Sorry, we'll get a kiss.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What you do, making it shine. I love what you're doing. Thank you. You get us a lot of compliments. Thank you for everything. Okay. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What, we going, a second turnaround?
Picture.
Kathy, you gotta get up front in the middle because if nobody else, I'm telling you, Kathy, you're gonna be lost.
Somebody's got to organize this group. Let's go.
Two rows.
There you go, Sheila, thank you.
That's it. Two rows.
All
two
guys
rows,
in the
quickly.
back.
Freddie, you're in the back. Go up front, Lisa. All right, squeeze it in, squeeze it in. All right. Thank you. Got it?
Got it?
All right, thank you.
All right, great
Thank
job.
you once again. And what did I say? They want to run right back to work. This is the dedicated group. The next item is a presentation of proclamation designating the week of May 7th through May 13th as National Corrections Officers and Employees Week. Thank you all. We had to wait for the egress. And that will be presented by Vice Chairman Peter O'Brien. And Sheriff Law has brought just a few members of the correctional staff. Thank you, Sheriff, and good morning.
Good morning.
Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Sheriff, and glad to see you brought the troops with you. Be glad to read the proclamation, then hopefully you'll have a few words to follow up with.
Sure.
Proclamation designating the week of May 7th through May 13, 2017 as National Correctional Officers and Employees Week. Whereas in 1984, President Ronald Reagan signed Proclamation 5187, creating National Correctional Officers Week. In 1996, the U.S. Senate officially changed the name of the week to National Correctional Officers and Employees Week. The first full week in May is recognized as National Correctional Officers and Employees Week to honor the work of correctional officers and correctional personnel nationwide. National Correctional Officers and Employees Week has been declared as May 7 through 13, 2017. And whereas Indian River County staff of correctional officers, nurses, civilian correction assistants, and support staff serve in an increasingly complex and demanding profession and work in a correctional environment where they are called upon to fill simultaneously custodial, supervisory, and counseling roles. They are responsible for the custody, safety, and well-being of the inmates within Indian River County. And whereas in today's profession, correctional officers and correctional personnel are well-trained, work under demanding circumstances, and face danger in their daily lives. And whereas the work of correctional officers and correctional personnel comes with a huge responsibility to maintain public safety, as well as to help inmates develop the skills necessary to become productive members of society. And whereas correctional officers and correctional personnel deserve our show of support as we utilize this week to honor their hard work, professionalism, dedication, and courage throughout the performance of their demanding and often conflicting roles and efforts to protect public safety. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners, Indian River County, Florida, that the week of May 7 through May 13, 2017, be designated as National Correctional Officers and Employees Week in Indian River County. Adopted this 9th day of May, signed and endorsed by all 5 county commissioners. Thank you all for your service, and Sheriff, a few words, please.
Sure. Well, thank you, Vice Chair, and it is an honor and a privilege to be a team member of this team that's behind me. Obviously, it could not be accomplished without the support staff that we have here, from our ladies in the back that help fuel the operation with paying bills and things of that nature. But Truth be known is we are the largest walk-in clinic in Indian River County with respect to behavioral health and physical health. We process 5,500 residents, tourists, and whomever violate the laws in Indian River County. 5,500 a year come in, 5,500 a year go out, and we maintain a population of about 450. In fact, last night we had 450 simply spend the night with us. It is a city within a city. We cook 1,500 meals a day. We have a variety of classifications from folks awaiting trial for first-degree murder to misdemeanor arrest as well. Anybody that violates a state statute, a federal statute, or an ordinance in some instances come through the doors of the Indian River County Sheriff's Office. These men and women do a fantastic job as dedicated by the 2009, early 2010 efforts of being accredited. Since then been re-accredited, and in the fall of this year plan on our mock re-accreditation with re-accreditation coming in January. Most agencies cannot have their agencies accredited that quickly, but the men and women behind me are solely dedicated to what they do every single day. A complete nursing staff, doctors, psychiatrists, you all are well aware of our mental health situation, and most recently the plague and epidemic of fentanyl that these brave men and women handle each and every day. There's incidents, there's fights, there's use of forces, use of controls. Most recently over the weekend we had one of our corrections deputies assaulted by two rowdy females that were under the influence. It is a full-time operation, 24 hours a day, as you can imagine. Does it have its mechanical ailments with respect to construction needs like that? Certainly, but I am honored to lead this group of men and women through these trying times, and I thank you for your support.
Well, Sheriff, no,
Go ahead.
no, please.
No, the same thing.
Sheriff, I want to thank you for the opportunity for all of the law-abiding citizens to be able to see the very people who provide for the care, custody, and control of the inmates. You know, it's an unsung hero's position. The average citizen enjoys the public safety and being in their own home and being unburdened with the inmates, but you all go in and every day have to handle, and your job has become very diverse over the past few years as far as the needs of the inmates. And we look forward to the opportunity of next year of seeing you once again, but I don't believe anybody will be crossing your paths in the very near future. So that's my way of saying thank you for doing a great job and keeping us all safe and secure in our homes.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Stop over there. Joe, stop over there for a picture. Yeah. Just keep them going around.
Thank you for your work. Thanks for keeping us safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Chaplain, thank you. Sure they were. Please, you did the invitation.
Sheriff, you want to get in front and have the proclamation? Murray?
Got to go back up to your rows there.
Thank you again. Thank you. Thanks again. Same here.
Thank you very much.
Same here.
I'm ready. Per parcel acre. That's the one you got to practice.
The next item on the agenda is a proclamation presentation designating the week of May 21st, May 27th, 2017 as Emergency Medical Services Week. That will be presented by Commissioner Tim Zork, And we have the Battalion Chief, Corey Richter's here.
Yes, sir.
And you
morning.
did bring the chief as well.
Yeah, I thought I'd bring him.
Yes.
Let him come.
Good choice.
Yeah.
He needed a driver.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is a proclamation dedicating the week of May 21st through May 27, 2017 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas President Gerald Ford signed the first National EMS Week proclamation in 1974 to draw attention to the sacrifice, dedication, and commitment of emergency personnel by officially recognizing their roles in our communities as a vital public service. And the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And access to quality medical care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical service system of Indian River County consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, educators, administrators, emergency nurses, emergency physicians, and many others dedicated to the field. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of Indian River County's emergency medical service providers and to remind all citizens of their tremendous contribution to our quality of life here in Indian River County and throughout the country. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners that we do hereby designate May 21st through May 27th as Emergency Medical Services Week. This year's theme, EMS Strong, Always in Service, captures the spirit and the devotion of our providers, and we encourage the community to recognize our teams by observing this week with appropriate respect and gratitude. We ask all Indian River County residents to honor this occasion by sharing their own strength with our local EMS providers and by taking steps to improve individual personal safety and preparedness. Adopted this 9th day of May 2017, signed by all 5 county commissioners. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. Thank you. Corey Richter, Battalion Chief with Fire Rescue, and on behalf of all of our folks out there, fire rescue, firefighters, paramedics, we want to thank you for showing us the respect that we should deserve, for this proclamation. Our guys are out there, like it said, always there, always in service. We are 7 days a week, 365 days a year, rain, shine, whatever. We're out there working on the roads and, protecting the citizens. Our service is, our level of service that we have here is bar none, compared to any service in the state here. We're all ALS, which is Advanced Life Support, and we're basically an extension of the ER. We're an extension of the ER when we're out there working in our truck and working on the scenes out there, which is phenomenal for where EMS has come over the years. EMS started, and Tim, you were part of EMS back in the day when.
A lot different back then.
What?
A lot different back then.
A lot different is right. That's what I'm getting at. There was not much that you did. We just transport them to the hospital, and the hospital did the work. Now we're doing the work of the hospital. And with all the medications that we carry, the EKG capabilities and other medical modalities that we have, we really are an extension of the emergency room now. And it's a testament from all of you guys that you've supported us, supported Fire Rescue and made us the division that we are, and for the citizens to give them the best care possible and get them to the hospital. I'd be remiss even not mentioning the hospitals, because we work closely with all of them. And when I say all of them, the 2 in the county, Sebastian River Medical Center and Indian River Medical Center, we work closely with them, and of course the 2 trauma centers, north and south, we work very closely with them too. And we're fortunate here that we have those hospitals because of the quality of care that they get, that you get at those hospitals. But it's a cooperation between us and the hospitals to get all that care done in a timely fashion, get you there, and you know, and get the final care that you need, that the citizens need and deserve. So we appreciate the support that you guys give us, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
John.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I recently was fortunate enough to have celebrated a 5-year anniversary of an event where I was fortunate enough to utilize the services provided by the emergency services team, and I can personally attest to what a fantastic job they do, not just saving lives, I mean, that's critical and that's important, but just the demeanor, the attitude, putting a patient at rest or at comfort, and, you know, totally controlling the whole situation, and, you know, with a positive outcome. So from my heart, literally and figuratively, I want to thank all of you for everything you do. Thank you.
I was going to bring that up, but it would have been a HIPAA violation, so I can't. But now that you did,
Right. I'm allowed to. So I just
yeah,
wanna
you're
thank
allowed
you guys.
to. You know, now that you did, yes.
I can also tell you
that's a classic example. You had what was called the Widowmaker.
Yeah.
And I believe when the crews were there, you almost didn't want to go.
I'll tell everybody in this room right now, you know, yeah, for a man to call 911 and say, yeah, I want to be transported, it's like a man asking for directions. You know, they just don't do it.
Exactly.
But it's the smartest, best decision you'll ever make in your life. Go ahead, pick up the phone, call 911, and get the professionals there working on your side. That, you know, if I hadn't done that, if I'd waited 5 more minutes, I wouldn't be sitting here, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I don't know about 5 minutes, but 30 minutes, an hour, yeah, you definitely wouldn't have. And it's the tools that you gave us that helped us diagnose it, and you're here today.
Yeah, just so you all know, again, they can take an EKG and send that to the hospital emergency room while they're en route. So when you get there, the emergency room is already on full alert. They've got the room ready. They called the CAF team. You know, everything just went bam, bam, bam at that point. So, yeah, call these guys. They'll take good care of you.
You strongly recommend this
Absolutely. These guys and gals. And I can tell you this, they also like brownies in the fire station afterwards. So,
Yeah.
but thank you all very much.
You have a great team, and thank you. And thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely, yep.
Thank you.
Feel free to bring it up. I don't care.
Yeah.
I do want to get the word out for you.
I like the analogy of the directions. Wow.
Where are the roses?
Oop, watch out behind you. You gotta take somebody take one.
Thank you.
Thanks again, guys.
Now, this group, when they leave, we hope they don't have to go back to work. The next item on the agenda is, there were no minutes. We have informational items. I did want to point out that there's a vacancy on the Code Enforcement Board, and we are receiving applications. It's a very rewarding experience to serve your county, your fellow citizens. And I just wanted to point it out that we are accepting applications. Is there anything else on informational items that anyone would like to discuss?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to mention that under informational items, there's a training program for solar jobs, and FP&L is moving forward with 2 big solar projects in Indian River County and elsewhere. So it's a good opportunity to get the training you need to get a job in the solar installation field. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Commissioners? Is there anything that?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item F.
F. Foxtrot? Okay. Is there anything else from the board? And is there any member of the public that wishes to pull anything for further discussion? Seeing none, commissioners?
Move to approve consent as amended.
Second. That's a motion by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Zork. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item F. Foxtrot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a citizen just request to pull this to clarify it. This is a resolution where when the county purchases a piece of property for public use, generally it's like a right-of-way or any type of purchase like that, and this is property that has been privately owned, it's been on the tax rolls, it's been paying property taxes, and when we purchase it for public use, then we don't tax ourselves. It'd just be a circular use of tax dollars. So we remove it from the tax roll and clear off any tax liens, and the property gets cleansed that way. And we have to do that through a resolution, and that's basically all this item is doing. And so with that, unless there's any other questions from the audience, I'll go ahead and move move staff recommendation.
Second.
Second.
It's a motion by multiple seconds, but we're going to have to draw it to Commissioner Solari. That's a motion by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Solari. Any
Mr.
further
Chairman?
discussion?
Yes, one a discussion on that. And the purpose of this additional right-of-way that was purchased is to help facilitate the future sidewalks on 45th Street and also a turn lane that will be over $1 million investment going from US 1 connecting into the 45th Street improvements, expansion of the railroad crossing. So that's a $1 million investment that will be coming up into the Gifford community over the next year or two. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Zork. And we did,
We haven't voted yet.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is constitutional officers. The clerk of the court, Jeffrey R. Smith, for a consolidation of deferred compensation plans.
Mr. Chairman, before Jeff makes his presentation, I'd like to see if the board would be agreeable. I've been hearing from a lot of the employees that they feel this is just being a little bit rushed and would like just a little bit more time to digest it and maybe have a little bit more question and answer with staff. So if the board would be agreeable, I'd like to go ahead and have Jeff and everybody go ahead and make the full presentation, but I'd like to hold off on a vote until next week and ask Human Resources to put on one more employee question and answer orientation, so to speak, just to make sure that we're giving everybody ample opportunity to weigh in on this and be able to make their, to get informed on it. I know that there's a little bit of a time crunch here, because if we move forward with this, there's a lot of work still to be done to try to get this ready for open enrollment in August. But I think if we just give it one more week and have one more employee session, that would go a long way to making sure that we were transparent and gave everybody an opportunity to learn as much as possible about this, because it is their dollars that we're talking about here that they have put in. And I just think we should give them every opportunity to get informed on it. And
Board?
And secondly, on that same topic, we have had a little outreach from some of the employees, either via email to the office, and are also allowing them at the next meeting when we do vote, if there's additional questions. I don't know if they're all here in the audience today, but they can leave their particular post if they have questions that are not answered over the next week, that they can take a short break from their work position here at the county and express any other questions that they may have.
I think that's well appropriate.
if you'd like a motion, I'll go ahead and make a move that we take full presentation here today, but we postpone taking action on this item till May 16th.
And I'll second it.
And that's a motion by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Solari. Any further discussion on that there, County Administrator?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'd just like to say I think it would be appropriate to do that and make sure that we're providing more time for our employees to get information. We did host a couple of sessions last week. We had about 40 people, I would say, show up and ask questions. We've been continuing to receive questions and try and answer those. I think some extra time would help vet the process a little more so that we can make sure that we've done some more outreach to the employees before we make a final
And I
decision.
appreciate the motion, Commissioner O'Brien, and fully support it. But I just want the public to know and the employees to know that the county administrator and human resources did go through some great lengths to ensure that there was awareness. But then again, we all get recall notices and a lot of things in the mail that we tend to look at and place them in a different perspective as well. So I think this is another opportunity to ensure that everybody knows what is coming forward and what they could foresee in their participation. So thank you once again. Anything further? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Well, we still have the presentation.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Not off the hook there.
Jeff Smith, Clerk of the Court and Comptroller for Eden River County. Almost 2 years ago, I attended a clerks conference, and one of the sessions that I sat in on was the fiduciary responsibility of clerks with deferred comp plans that they offer to their employees. When I came back, I decided that not only should I look at my fiduciary responsibility, but I should also alert the Board of County Commissioners and the other constitutionals to their responsibility as well. And I figured maybe we could work together on a unified plan and see what benefits would inure to the participants. Last summer, we hired a consultant to do just that. We hired ANCO, which formerly was called the Bogdan Group. They are a sole consultant for, and they mainly handle 457 plans, which is the ones we're talking about here. 457 plans are only available to government entities. We hired them to provide assurance that the decisions that were being made were in the best interest of the participants. The firm is an independent SEC-registered institutional investment consulting firm. They serve as a fiduciary to each of their clients without exception or caveat. And the only compensation they receive is from their clients. I hired them, I paid the fee, and I am paying the fee for them to do this consulting work for not only my office, but for the county, and all the constitutional officers. So it didn't, I'm paying for that myself. They do not, the one thing that is important to note here is that they're not affiliated with any brokerage firm or investment company. That way we can guarantee that we're getting a 100% good advice for the benefit of our employees without having an ulterior motive, along with that, where they could refer us to somebody that would provide them extra money. That's not happening here. They're just a consulting firm. They're looking out for the best interest of the county and the constitutional officers' employees. If there's one thing that I wish I would have done different was open communication more with the employees, and I apologize for that, but this is the first time that I've worked trying to consolidate a plan like this together. We have a fiduciary responsibility as fiduciaries of our individual plans. You've got 3 plans, I've got 3 plans, the property appraiser has 3 plans. Combined, we have 119 funds that we all are responsible for to make sure that those funds are legitimate, stable, and viable funds for our employees to invest in. So the consultant came back and said, the way to do that is to unify your plans to one vendor and structure it as an open architecture. So The one thing I want to interject here, though, is that everybody's got to remember that the success that every participant may have had in their individual accounts has not come from the particular vendor that they're associated with, i.e. ICMA, Mass Mutual, Nationwide, Empower, whatever. They're not the ones that are generating those returns for the individuals. The funds that those individuals are invested in hire managers, and those managers are the ones that are creating the gains that everybody sees. So it's not a particular vendor. All the vendor does is the record keep. And we, the participants, and I'm a member of ICMA, we pay a fee for the ICMA to do the record keeping on a quarterly basis. That's all they do for us. So it's not, if I'm in ICMA or one of you are in Florida League or one of you are in Mass Mutual, it's not the Mass Mutual or the Florida League that's generating those returns. It's the funds that you invest in. That's why we created an open architecture. The open architecture means that if you like a particular fund, whether it's an S&P fund or a long-term bond fund or a targeted index retirement fund or mid-cap, then you're going to have that same availability no matter what vendor we ended up choosing. So you're going to still have those kinds of funds generating those returns, whether or not you're in ICMA or Nationwide or Florida League. That's what the open architecture means. We went out on RFP. The consultant suggested that we go out for RFP, and we sent out an RFP to all the providers that do this kind of record keeping in the marketplace. 9 responders responded to the RFP. We met. I invited the representatives from the board. I invited the representatives from the firefighters union. I invited representatives from the Teamsters union, and I invited representatives from each one of the constitutionals to sit in on this process and be part of the committee. We met several times trying to decide which way to go. After we got the RFP out and got the respondents back, we had 9 responders. We analyzed those, we shortlisted those down to 5. Then we had presentations. We had those 5 come in and do a presentation. And out of those 5, we shortlisted it down to 3. Then we said, okay, we want to go back and we want these 3 to sharpen their pencil one more time. One of the things that we requested in the RFP was for the provider to give us their fee structure, what they would do as far as educational purposes were concerned, what their website, give us a demonstration of their website, and we wanted a user-friendly website. And we heard from several sectors that some investors, some participants wanted a guaranteed fund because they're scared of going into the marketplace. They wanted a place where they could put their money, have their contributions go into, and get a guaranteed rate of return. Well, out of the 9, only 2 had that guaranteed fund, Mass Mutual and Nationwide. Nationwide came in at 3.5% for a guarantee of 12 months. Mass Mutual came in at 2% for a guarantee of 12 months. Once we went back out and had the top 3 sharpen their pencils even more, Nationwide came back and said, okay, we're going to not only reduce our fees even further, but we're going to guarantee the 3.5% guarantee fund for another 12 months, so it was a total of 24 months that the participant would get a guaranteed 3.5% rate of return on their contributions. Ultimately, this is a fiduciary duty, and the committee is tasked with making decisions that are the most beneficial for the employees. That's so important to remember here, that our only objective is to make sure that the employees, which are the participants in the plans, get the best service for the best rate and have the best funds available to invest in. It's our responsibility, if we don't do anything, to continually analyze those 119 funds to make sure that they're good enough for our employees to invest in. Well, that's quite a task to do. So we set the open architecture so that if a person liked an S&P fund, they would still have the availability of investing in an S&P fund under the format. What they do get, though, is they get the benefit of the power in numbers to get reduced fees. So Nationwide has produced a proposal that would charge 12 basis points, that's 0.12% of the funds that are invested to do the record keeping. Currently, the average the participant is paying is close to 0.8% or 80 basis points. So that's a significant decrease in fees. And that goes back to the individual participants. That savings goes right back into your, if you're participating, goes right back into your accounts. And the time value of money compounding makes that even more valuable to the participants. St. Lucie County just recently went through the same unification process. They chose a vendor, and instead of, and when the transition actually occurred, there was gains to the participants. Well, St. Lucie County decided to take those gains and put them in an account to pay the record-keeping fees for their participants instead of passing those gains on to the participants. We chose not to do that. We're choosing to pass those gains at transition on to the participants because it's their money in the first place. They should get the benefit of the compounding of those gains, not anybody else. The county doesn't get anything out of this. The clerk doesn't get anything out of this. The supervisor of elections doesn't get anything out of this, other than the satisfaction that what we're offering our employees is the best of the best. And they're getting the best funds to invest in at the best rate. What I'd like to do now is introduce to you Tony Kay from ANCO Consulting. He will be our investment advisor through this whole process, through the transition, through the selection of the funds. And one other thing, the employees will have a say in what funds, you know, if they like a particular fund, they will have that opportunity to allow, we will have educational meetings for them to participate in that fund selection process. Tony Kay is a consultant at ANCO. His consulting experience encompasses work in both strategic and tactical asset allocation, process development and oversight, and policy documentation for public and private defined contribution plans and deferred compensation plans. Tony has over 10 years of financial industry experience and currently advises over $1 billion of institutional assets. He concentrates his efforts on client consulting, capital markets, and manager research, performance calculation, and portfolio monitoring. He's going to be helping us evaluate the funds that we select on a quarterly basis to make sure that they still remain a viable, excellent fund for our employees to invest in. That's the part of the fiduciary responsibility that we need to institute and to keep going, is that constant analyzation of the funds that the employees invest in. Tony?
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask one question of Jeff before he transitions.
Commissioner Zorc?
In general, you said there was 119 funds that are managed currently by all the providers. How many of those would you consider are overlap that Company A and Company C have a similar or the same product? Or
quite a few, because each one of those vendors offers the same types of funds.
The same, okay.
Yeah. The 119 funds, it means that our responsibility as fiduciaries and your staff and my particular responsibility is to constantly evaluate those 119 funds to make sure that they're good for all the employees to invest in. And that becomes the responsibility.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes.
And Jeff, just so I'm really clear on this open architecture, if there's a Pacific fund, and in the Florida League of Cities, they have a lot of Vanguard funds. So if an employee has their money invested in the Vanguard Index 500 fund, then that can be rolled over with this open architecture into the new version of the plan, that exact fund, not the nationwide Index 500 fund, which is similar, but the exact Vanguard fund can be rolled over into our plan.
Yeah. Yes, we addressed that in one of the employee meetings because we had an employee recite that same concern, and we're going to work towards that, yes.
Okay,
Tony?
I want to hear,
Yeah,
I
Tony
don't
will
want
say-
to work towards, I want a yes.
yeah, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Mr. Smith. Good morning, Commissioners. Again, Tony Kay with ANCO Consulting Firm, Florida-based consulting firm. Predominant focus is on public pension and defined contribution plans. Again, we are independent, and why that's important is that we serve as fiduciaries to the plan and the participants without any caveat or exemption. We're not paid by any record keepers or investment managers. So ultimately, we want what's best for participants and the employees of the county. So we prepared a vendor consolidation overview, which I believe is in your packet. But I do want to hit a couple of the highlights of this because the fee savings from the consolidation are pretty important, pretty significant. Again, total plan assets, close to $30 million, 3 current vendors, and again, over 100 funds. That's a lot to monitor and oversee. We're on the next page. And again, purposes of the consolidation are to leverage the economies of scale. When you combine those plans together, one vendor operating for 3 of the different constitutional offices might not provide as low of a fee, but when you put all of those assets together, there's efficiencies, savings. They can have reps on site for education to reduce fees, as well as one simplified, unified lineup. It allows for, again, open architecture. So to the question about the Vanguard fund or an S&P 500 index fund, the index is the index, right? There are 500 companies that are in that index. They're the same 500 companies, whether it's Nationwide or Vanguard, that is overseeing that vehicle. So our thinking is, why pay more for that? If it's going to be the same 500 funds, you might as well go with the same 500 companies, you might as well go with the lowest, cheapest offering provider. So again, allows for fiduciary oversight, better options, lower fees, and ongoing maintenance and monitoring. Page 3, the next slide, shows the plan assets. As Jeff mentioned, Mr. Smith mentioned, estimated record-keeping fees across the plans are close to 0.76%. So on an annual basis, that's a cost to participants, to employees, of $231,000 just for the administration of the plans. You can see the breakout of the assets on the right side of that page. And then the next page, on page 4, is anticipated savings from consolidation. Again, simplifying the investment lineup, you would still have core investment options, target date funds, and that Nationwide fixed account at a 3.5% rate of return, which is incredibly competitive. We don't see that in the marketplace quite that often. Record-keeping fees at 12 basis points, 0.12%, would show a record-keeping fee of $35,600 a year. So savings to your participants, to your employees of approximately $200,000 a year. Think about that over the next 5 years, and that's $1 million that goes into participants, stays in participants' accounts, and can earn interest. The next page, a couple pages, show the impact of the fee savings. So we did the impact of the fee savings over 20 years for a participant. So this participant, we started with a beginning balance of $10,000, assumed an annual salary of $40,000 a year, contributions into the deferred comp plan at 7% rate, interest and earnings on their plan at 6%, with a 2.5% annual salary increase. So you can see over the course of 20 years, starting with an employee at the age of 45, at age 65, they would have an account balance of $162,000 under this new program with the fee savings, or with Nationwide. Compare that to what their account balance would be at 0.76%, and you see $12,000 annual savings for just one participant. This, of course, gets magnified if you go to 30 years, or the next page on page 7 is 40 years. So this slide shows same starting balance, but earlier on in their career at 25, $40,000 annual salary, same attributes, but you can see the fee savings, the difference of close to 0.5% over that lifetime is greater than $100,000 for that participant. So in a better position for retirement, a larger account balance, and better fiduciary oversight. The last thing that I will comment on page 8, and this kind of points out the underlying investment options and how currently there is overlap. So we took the S&P 500 index fund, and you can see a variety of the providers have a different way of approaching that in terms of the fee that they're charging, but again, it's the same index that they are replicating. So you can see fund expense ratios kind of in the middle column there, anywhere from 4 basis points with Vanguard up to 20 basis points on a current nationwide platform overseen by SEI. So if you look at those total annual fees, there's significant savings. A participant currently with Nationwide could be paying close to $95 a year in record-keeping fees, add on another $17 if their account balance is $10,000 for an annual fee of $112. Under the new model, they would pay $12 in record-keeping fees annually and would have access to a very cost-effective institutional index fund through Vanguard at 4 basis points, so $4 a year. There's no reason to pay $20 for something you can get for $4, in our opinion. So that's kind of the benefits of the consolidation. Happy to answer any other questions about that.
I wanted to address your specific question, Commissioner Bryan. Yes, you can. If the committee decides to bring in a Vanguard fund, yes, we can bring the Vanguard fund into the plan. That's what open architecture meant. So we will have representatives from the employees participate in that process of selection of funds, and if Vanguard is one of those, yes, we can bring those over.
Okay, just a follow-up question then, Jeff. I'm looking at the lineup, the fund lineup for Nationwide, and they currently don't have any Vanguard fund option. So I guess the question would be, does Nationwide have a selling contract or whatever they call it with Vanguard so they could offer Vanguard funds?
Yes, they do.
They do, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'd like to add on to that, if I could. You know, I think from the indexing ones, you've got a lot of Vanguard in Florida League of Cities, for instance. Folks that are in those types of indexing funds, the goal there is low cost, low fees. Not to say that it's Vanguard. I don't know of anybody who's lower at this point, so that would be viewed favorably, I think, in setting up the new plan. We've got the ability to pick those Vanguard funds, as well as other funds. If there are folks that are in funds that they like in some of the other plans, I think as we go through this process, we're going to have an open process where we'll include the employees. If we've got a high participation in one fund, we're going to take extra consideration of looking at that fund. If that's a fund that's as long as it's a good fund and it's not charging too much of a fee, we would definitely favorably consider, including that in the new plan, which would limit the disruption. And we welcome the employees' comments on that. If there's particular funds that they want us to consider, we'll include that through the process. And I'd like to add, I think there should be, can you go one more slide, Jason? Yeah. One
No.
further forward.
Further forward.
Other way. Back the other way. There. No. Back there. So this is an analysis. Those prior savings were just the record-keeping fee. We think there will be underlying fee reductions in the mutual fund fees that are underneath that. So this takes the example of the S&P fund. If you look, the highest one of the S&P 500 of the 4 that are offered in the plans, between the record-keeping fee and the fee on the fund, it's 1.15%. What we would be able to achieve with the new plan is 0.16%, essentially a 1% per year savings. And that's, I think it's important to mention, as Tony had said before, an S&P 500 index fund, it's all the same thing. It's 500 companies. It's the same ones and the same rates. There's no magical investment advisor who's going to give you some magical return. If you get a lower fee, you're going to have a higher return. And so whereas this 30 year scenario was I think about a $30,000 or $40,000 savings with just the record keeping fee. The differential when you add the mutual fund fee is $59,000 over that same time period.
Yeah, and I also want to indicate that the firefighters union was invited, as was the Teamsters. The firefighters participated significantly in this process, made significant valuable contributions to this process. They approved of the process and of the selection that we ultimately recommending to you. For some reason, the Teamsters didn't participate, but we still will invite them, as well as all employees, to participate in the fund selection process, because this is their money, not ours. And all I'm trying to do is make sure that we offer them the best funds available so that they can benefit, not anybody else. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Jeff, would it be possible to get a report on the total funds or total dollars in each fund, in each plan? Just to see where the concentration is?
We get the reports consolidated on a quarterly basis from all the vendors. Of the ones that the clerk's office employees participate in, and you all get the reports from the board. What we don't get is the ones from the constitutionals, do we?
Yeah, no, we get those.
We get those? Okay. Yeah, it'll take a little time for us to combine all those assets.
If y'all don't mind, I would greatly appreciate that if you could put that together. That would help me a lot. Secondly, Jeff, will there be a Roth version
Yes.
of the 457?
Yes.
Okay. And then on the nationwide fixed account, they're offering to extend the 3.5% guaranteed rate for 24 months, but then it goes to a floating rate after the 24 months. But currently, my understanding is that fixed account is the minimum is the 3.5%. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so there's some folks that are solely invested on that, and then 62 additional that has some portion in that. So I guess, is there any way to grandfather those folks in under the old Nationwide, and any new money rolled in would fall under the proposal?
Do the current investors that have Nationwide in the 3.5% in the guaranteed fund get the 3.5%?
Isn't there a standard rollover window?
Yeah.
We need to confirm that.
Right now, it's just guaranteed for 24 months, but under the program.
Under the new program,
Pardon?
under the new proposal.
The participants that are currently in the guaranteed fund in Nationwide,
Yeah, well, right now, they're guaranteed 3.5.
for how long? So the participants now in there will get the 24 months guarantee as well.
Right.
Yes.
24 months guaranteed.
The participants that are currently in the guaranteed fund in Nationwide will get the 24-month guarantee. At
Yeah,
3.5.
I get that. My worry is they're going from a guaranteed 3.5
The
for
guarantee-
life.
The guarantee now is only 12%, 12 months, I thought.
No,
No, it's 24 months.
No.
No.
The current.
Oh,
not
the current one
proposed.
is only 12 months, correct.
Well, no, in the backup, it says the fixed account cannot go below 3.5%, period.
That's correct.
Come on.
Well, we can what we'll do is we'll double check with Nationwide and see if we can.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much.
Negotiate that, because under the new proposal, it is.
You need to get on.
Under the, currently, they are earning 3.5% for their lifetime.
Right.
As part of the proposal, when Nationwide came back and said that they would only honor that, what was originally for 12 months, now it's 24 months, which was your question. But what we could do is, Tony can go back to Nationwide and talk to them, but
Well, and just here's my concern, okay? We've got 35 people that are solely in the fixed account. So they're getting 3.5% for as long as they keep the money in there. If we go with the new option, they get that for 24 months, I get that, but then it could drop to 1%.
lowest it can go.
No, but
Yes.
believe me, they'll drop it as low as they can, you know, when they have that opportunity. So then those folks are going to be losing 2.5% on the return to save 0.64% in fees. So that doesn't make sense. So my question is, can those folks that are in the fixed account now be grandfathered in, and then any new money that gets rolled in would be under the new plan, the 24 months, and it goes to the 1% minimum?
Yeah, we're happy to reach out to them and try to negotiate that. And I will say, thus far, they've been more than willing to, roll up their sleeves, sharpen their pencils, and do what it takes to bring in this consolidation effort. I can't make a promise for nationwide, obviously, but
Right.
they've been a good business partner thus far.
Okay.
So we're happy to ask that.
And I need to say, I think we need to get clarification on what the current deal is. I don't know, that's not how those normally work, that there's a 3.5% for,
Yeah.
usually they'll say it's a 3.5% for now, but we can change that into the future. And usually what you put in last year may be guaranteed for 3.5% going forward, but what you put in next year, that may be the case, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah, if that's the
need to get
case, we
clarification.
will reach out to that and ask for that.
Mr. Chairman, then would
Thank you.
we get an update on that next week
Absolutely.
before we vote? Okay.
Right. Yes, the decision has been deferred, and we appreciate the presentation. Is there anything further from the board? I realize that some of the employees may have come in anticipation that we would be making a decision today, so I would like to give them opportunity if anybody would like to come forward to speak. If they can't be at next week's meeting, we're giving another opportunity next week to be able to speak on the matter before the decision is made. There'll also be additional awareness by Human Resources. Is that correct?
We'll host additional sessions. We've been getting, we've offered, we had an FAQ that we put out. We've gotten other questions. We've tried to answer any questions we've gotten as we go. We'll continue that process, provide more opportunities to meet with the employees to.
Yes, the HR director has told me that she can set them up this Thursday at 1 and Thursday at 2. And we'll have them in the same room that we did Friday.
Actually, we need purchasing, the other room's not available.
Oh, it's not, okay. It'll be in Building B,
Building B and purchasing.
in the purchasing conference room.
Building B in purchasing,
This
and we'll
Thursday
get,
at 1 and this Thursday at 2.
and we'll get that notification out to all employees without delay today?
Now, I apologize,
No.
Commissioner O'Brien, I was not following what your question was on the guaranteed, so.
Right.
I
And just one more thing on that, if I may, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
please.
So it's important to note that what they're proposing is, there's two options. One is just the open architecture fund lineup as a standalone, and that fee is 0.17%. And then if we take the open architecture, the same thing, and go with the new fixed account proposal, they're dropping it by 0.05%. So they're putting a sweetener in there to go with the new fixed account version. And what that tells me is that our fixed account now is 3.5 for life. And they're trying to make it sweeter to go with the new one, which only puts them on the hook for 24 months. So just for the board to keep in mind, is that 0.05 savings on the fee worth giving up 3.5% fixed for life? So if you all could clarify that it's 3.5 for life currently, because to me that'll be a big difference. 0.05 is pretty small change compared to that 3.5% guaranteed all time. So that'd be a good thing to answer for me. Okay.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak regarding this matter before we move on?
Yes, my name is Donald Hart, and I just retired from the River County Sheriff's Office 1 year ago.
Congratulations, Donald.
And one of the things that I'd done was to roll some of my money over to Mass Mutual as well as Nationwide. And I do get the guaranteed 3.5% now. So that is something that I would like to know, as well as Mass Mutual, if that Because when Nationwide came in, I think we had that probably in the earlier part of my career, and then it went away. So then Mass Mutual came in, but I still kept my account open with Nationwide, and I did roll some of my money over into that due to the 3.5% that they said it was a guaranteed rate. So that's something that I would like to know myself, as well as the Mass Mutual, because I did roll a lot of my money over from the Florida retirement system into those two accounts. So I just wanted to say that.
I can answer that question for him. As a retiree of the Sheriff's Department, they're not part of this process.
Okay.
They opted out, and they're staying with Mass Mutual. So they're not going to get the same record-keeping fees as what we're proposing, but the Sheriff's Department opted out of this whole process midway through, so it will not affect your investment.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
It's a good thing.
And they have their.
Okay.
We saw the question.
Mr. Hart.
Wow.
Mr. Hart, they also have their own advisor. They did not go with our consultant. They have their own consultant.
Okay.
So you can meet with them at your leisure. They will have their meetings for your employees.
Now, would they be discussing the same thing as far as reducing the fixed rate and whatnot?
No, I don't know what their process is. We tried to get them to stay with us because the purchasing power would even been better with your total assets, but they chose not to do that. So I don't know what their process is or where they're at in their process. I do know that the fees that they're going to be charging you all are not the lowest fees that we're going to get for our employees, but that's just the result of the sheriff staying out of the process. So.
Okay.
Okay, you can
Probably check
call
with
their
HR.
office and set up an appointment with their consultant and talk with them if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Lisa Patton. I just have one question that I didn't feel like was answered for your presentation. So on the Q&A, they had on number 7, can I keep what I have currently in the Florida League of Cities? So my question is why can't we keep our money where it is, and why does it have to be moved? And I feel like it's being moved kind of without my permission, if you will, for lack of better words.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. And part of the consolidation process, what we are looking at is the underlying investments in the Florida League of Cities plan lineup, many of which are index funds, because there's, if you will, a captive audience in that fund or in that platform already. You know, there's not the pressure on Florida League of Cities to offer the lowest fees. So what we would submit is that by consolidating, you can keep similar index funds, but get them at a lower cost. So your underlying investments and your asset allocation doesn't change, just the fees that you're paying on that are lowered.
But there's no option for us to stay where we're at if we want to stay.
There's also an option for a self-directed brokerage option, which would be a window into really any fund that's available out there, any mutual fund. So if a participant said, we don't like the core investment lineups or this core investment lineup, the 20 options or so that are available to us, that would be an option as well. You could go out in the self-directed brokerage option if that's the route the committee chooses, and have every fund essentially available to you, including anything that would be in Florida League of Cities.
And Nationwide has included that in their proposal.
They have.
So just to clarify then, let's say I'm in the Florida League of Cities and I have 5 different Vanguard funds. And after all the selection process, it's determined that they're only going to include 3 of those in the new Nationwide plan. I would then have the option to do a self-directed brokerage, and I could roll over my 5 funds into that self-directed brokerage and still get the nationwide bookkeeping, record-keeping fee of 0.17 or 0.12.
That's correct. The difference would be that you would be paying whatever the offering rate is on that mutual fund through the self-directed brokerage platform. I can say that, you know, if you look at the lineups that we've developed for clients, we make sure to have a lot of passive investment vehicles available. Typically the lowest cost offering in passive investment vehicles is Vanguard. That will be likely one of our recommendations would be to keep a very good amount of index funds to make sure that those concerns are addressed.
Okay, but just, again, to Lisa's question, if she doesn't like the final selection, she can then do the self-directed brokerage, roll all her current funds into the self-directed brokerage, and still only the record-keeping fee of 0.17 or 0.12, whatever we decide.
The record-keeping fee will be applicable, but we don't know what that brokerage firm will charge for their services. The record-keeping fee that Nationwide will charge us is still the 12 basis points. But once you go into a self-directed investment plan through a brokerage firm, then that brokerage firm can charge whatever they want on top of the record-keeping fees, and that we can't control through this process.
Okay, so who would be some of those third-party brokerage firms? Would it be
Charles
like
Schwab,
TD Ameritrade, a
Fidelity.
lot of those?
Only Charles Schwab is part of this one, though, and through the Nationwide thing, they only go through Charles Schwab. There's a $10,000 initial balance requirement to transfer over. So if you have $10,000 in your current 457, you roll that over, then you can participate in the self-directed plan. You will still get the 12 basis points record keeping by Nationwide. However, there's a fee that Charles Schwab will charge you for maintaining your account
Okay.
there, like every brokerage firm does.
Before next week, could we find out what that fee is, please?
It's $50 to enroll, and it's $50 on an annual basis, and then it's the fee on top of what you are trading. Some people trade, I'm not sure if there's anybody who does that now, but that's also outlined in their proposal. It's $50 to sign up for that, and it's $50 annual fee, and then you have to pay the trading fees for Charles Schwab.
And those trading fees, you know, vary constantly. So.
Okay, so it's a $50 enrollment, $50 annual fee?
Service charge, yeah.
And then your trading fees, as if you were at your broker.
And I have to speak to something on indexing. If I'm hearing from Lisa that you've got some index funds in Florida League of Cities, I'll be pushing for a significant selection of index funds, and that's going to we're reluctant to say it, but most likely it's going to be Vanguard because they're the lowest cost that I know of. I don't know of any. They invented index investing, and nobody's lower than them that I'm aware of. So I'll say that I think when we're going through an exercise that's lowering investment fees for the employees, you need to include index funds in there. There needs to be a good selection. So I think I'll be pushing for a good selection of low-cost index funds, which will likely be Vanguard.
As will I, because, excuse me, Commissioner, I invest in both ICMA and the Florida League. The reluctance is not the fact that Vanguard can't come into this plan. The reluctance is we want to make sure that Vanguard is the best fund. Most likely it is because we've had success with Vanguard, but it's not because Vanguard, we don't know whether Vanguard could come in or not. That's established. We want to make sure that of the 20 or so funds that we pick, it's the best of the best. Most likely Vanguard will be one of those, so the target index funds that she's in right now, if Vanguard ends up being the best fund, it will come over and she will have the same investing capabilities as she does now.
Right, and that's all I wanted to make sure that there's an option, because I think, you know, we've got two groups here, kind of, we have a lot of employees that probably aren't real sophisticated investors, And I think to them, that 3.5 fixed account is a real important thing because it's simple, it's guaranteed, they can understand that. And to me, I think that's really important to a lot of folks that just, aren't, deep into this. And then we might have other employees like Lisa that might be more sophisticated. And as long as we can tell her up front,
Yes.
okay, here's your option, here's what the fees are going to be, I'm confident she's smart enough to figure out what's going to be in her best interest, but I want to make sure she has that option. If she just feels really strong about what she has and wants to hang on to it,
Yeah.
then she can make an educated decision because she'll be.
And I want to reiterate that they're going to be part of this process of selecting the funds. So her opinion on keeping the Vanguard targeted funds will be very well taken by the committee.
Right, and I agree with what Jason said. I think Vanguard is a good fund family. They do have some of the lowest fees, and that would help simplify things for employees so that more of them might participate, which is to their benefit, I strongly believe, or those that are participating may participate at a higher level, which is also, I believe, good for them. So,
Yeah, I'm of the school that you under promise and over deliver.
right.
And I just don't want to, I know Orange County went through this unification process about 8 years ago, and they selected Vanguard as the vendor and the funds. So I know Vanguards are one of the best funds. I just didn't want to say definitely because, obviously the committee is going to take input from everybody, but
Right.
most likely the Vanguard funds that you're in will come over and be part of this.
And you always have to give the standard disclaimer that past performance is no guarantee of future results. So.
Right.
Yeah, I would just briefly add the last 5 lineups that I've developed for clients. Vanguard has played a key role in every single one of those.
Tony, could you send me a couple of those?
Absolutely.
Are you allowed to do that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Jeff,
Yeah.
if you could make sure Tony can get those to me?
Yeah.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
We did, as part of the process, the RFP process, we asked for recommendations and examples of prior, counties and cities that they've done
What the
business
final
with.
adopted lineup
Yeah.
was? Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Jason. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Cindy Carenti. I'm the Utility Finance Manager. I do have a large speech, a little larger than I'm going to end up doing today because I think we're going to get some more information this week that's going to probably be very helpful to a lot of us. But I am part of a management team that represents employees that are in the Teamsters Union as well as the non-bargaining employees. And I am very concerned, not only for myself, who has funds invested other than in Nationwide currently, and many of my employees that I've spoken to this past week are in the same boat. So it's quite a concern that 48% of the funds that are currently invested, that are 100% your employees' monies, are not currently with Nationwide. So I think it's very important, and I'm not sure how much can be accomplished. I know Friday was very helpful, but it did still leave several things unanswered. So I'm not sure how much can be accomplished in this next week to alleviate the concerns of those 48%. That's almost 1 in every 2 employees who currently chose to put their money somewhere else, knowing what the fees were, knowing the rules and regulations that they were falling under when they chose those funds. And yes, we all understand that some of us understand those processes a little better than others, but again, it's the employees' money, and it was their choice to put it where they want. So right now, you're facing almost 1 in every 2 employees that didn't choose what the committee's recommending right now. So I think it's very important to answer some of these questions. I think it's very important to compile the data where the funds are currently invested to see what the ratios are. 119 funds, some of them cross over evidently. So maybe when you look at the 119, it's not really 119 you're going to have to deal with to say, how do we most closely represent those funds going forward? But I think that's very, very important to many of us that are invested currently and many of our employees that are invested currently. It's commendable that the firefighters union's leadership did participate and make sure that their employees were represented in this process, and I understand that they're pretty happy with the process. And it's just very disappointing that the other two employee groups were not given that opportunity. The Teamsters were given that opportunity. Their leader didn't choose to make sure that they were fairly represented. And as a manager of those employees, it's very concerning. So I appreciate that we are going to have another week for our employees and all of us to answer more questions, but I think it's very important to get some of this data in this next week so we can hopefully get some more buy-in from the stakeholders in this program.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Corinthy.
If I could comment. First of all, she mentioned that the 119 funds may have overlaps. That's true, but that still does not remove the responsibility of the fiduciary from looking at each fund. So we still have to do the analyzation or the analysis on each of the 119 funds to make sure that it's a viable fund for the participant to invest in. Even though the underlying assets may be the same, the managers may be different. There may be things in the prospectus that are different, that are disadvantaged to the participants. So that's the part that we have to continually analyze. And I want to reiterate that if 48% of the people are invested in an ICMA, with ICMA, as I am partially am, ICMA is not the person that is generating those returns. It's the funds managers that they're investing in that is generating. So if you like a fund in ICMA and you're strong about wanting that fund to come over in the open architecture, that can happen. It's not ICMA that's generating the success that a participant has. It's the fund itself and the manager that's paid by that fund, not by ICMA, to buy and sell the assets within that fund to make the gains. So if you like a particular fund in ICMA and that's a good fund, we can bring that over into the architecture.
I would like to say that,
Just on that, I mean, I think my guess is that a lot of people aren't quite understanding that. So I think you need to take those 119 funds and then line them up. Spreadsheet is great for that. On which ones are, say, the Vanguard S&P 500, which ones are the same Russell 2000, and then simply show what the total fee is, the way it's presently from each distributor, and the way it would be under the new sort of unified system. I mean, for me, it's like saying, you know, I'm going to buy a stamp, a forever stamp. I mean, that's the product that drives whether I can send a letter out or not. But I may be paying 50 cents for it at one place and 47 cents for another place just because the place I buy it is different. But the return, the letter safely getting where it's going, is the same regardless. And I think that's probably lost in some of this. So it's at the end of the day, I mean, if the employees understand that their goal of getting that letter to their mother or son or whatever is met the same way that the retirement goals are met, then I think there won't be any resistance to this change. But that piece has to be clear. And I also think, I don't think that the combination of the saving in the fee and the saving in the fund expense was clearly articulated. The way I was listening to it, you could say that it was just a little bit on the margin, but they're additive, as I understand it. And you need to add the one slide with the second slide, and that pushes it well over 1%. That a lot of people could be saving. And if people really understood what that 1% over 30 years meant to retirement, I think resistance would also melt. So, I mean, these things are difficult to understand. The idea of 1% compounded over 34 years is often difficult to understand, but if it's well articulated, again, I think a lot of the resistance will melt. I mean, what you have is you know, kind of me working one of these tech machines. I mean, I've got a lot of stress because I don't know how the heck it operates, and I'm barely getting
Works like
by
a cell
on it.
phone.
But, so I don't want to shift from one thing to the other, because I really don't have that understanding, and it just builds up unnecessary stress. But if they understood, had a clear understanding of how it worked, I think that stress would disappear, and they'd feel better for it. I mean, if I have a piece of technology that I've been using for 3 years, and at least it can do the basics, what I need, I don't want to change it. Same way with a lot of people, I believe, with investment products that have been working for the last 3 or 4 or 5, 6 years the way they say. I mean, what may be a simple zero substantive change for you, sir, or Jeff, or myself, may look like it's a substantial change to somebody else. And, so that, it's just that needs to be uncovered. So basically, in a week's time, you got a really good educational job to do. I wish you luck.
Well, I
And
just,
one quick
one
question,
comment I want to make sure that all the employees know, and that is that my only intent by starting this whole process in the first place was to do the best for the employees. I apologize to the employees if I didn't communicate this in a better way. This is the first time I've tried to take 5 or 6 different entities and combine one process on how we're doing things, and I thought I was doing the best way. I could have probably done it even better, but I apologize to the individual employees. But I can't reiterate enough that my sincere intent was just to do the best for the employees, nothing else. Because at the end of the day, I get nothing out of this. The county gets nothing out of this, because this is the employees' money. We're not paying the fee. The employees are paying the fee. And I want the best for the employees. That's all.
And I don't think apologies necessary. I believe that you're looking at this in the eyes of an accountant. And you're looking at tables, and you're looking at end results. And I believe the employees would prefer to see that spreadsheet, see all the listed options, as they generally do see in prospectus that they're confronted with in many of the decisions that they have to make within employment or investment or health benefits. They like to see the options and see what's best suited for their family needs. And I don't believe that they were confronted with that as more than a refined product that ultimately is a very good product, a very well-valued product, but I believe that they would like the benefit of present all options. As they say in real estate, present all offers, present all options, so that they can make a cognizant decision, and we also can make a cognizant decision for a presentation for the employees. So I don't think that it's errant as much or short-sighted as much as you probably have made an refined, I shouldn't even use the word over-refined, refined decision for presentation, and I believe that they would like to see the whole package.
Yeah, and I'll just add, we will assist with that process. It's great for us to hear this feedback, from the ground level, from employees and participants, what's meaningful to them. That can only help us drive better outcomes, fee savings, better investment options, and help us to refine our process and make sure that the employees of this county are getting everything they can out of this deferred compensation plan. So we appreciate that input.
And the limited apprehension that you may have detected that we heard today, I'm sure there's more of that. Again, we are climbing out of the economic downturn. We're getting there. I think people are a little more comfortable, but now there's a greater reservation as to what's in the package for their family's future. They want to make the right decision. So we appreciate the outreach, the additional workshop. I hope that all that had inquiries can attend. If there's employees watching or hearing, let's ensure that they get the announcement so that they can participate, and I don't believe there should be limitations on how they can get there or or participate. This is a very important decision for the employees. But Jeff, we appreciate it. We appreciate you going into your funds to move this forward. And it's for all of us to embrace and adopt. And I see David Nolte is now approaching. Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to tell you that I believe Jeff Smith and his staff have done a phenomenal job in this matter. Well, it's a complicated issue. I don't think that, from what I heard today, that there's a comprehension of what the issue really is. But I just want to say, Jeff, keep up the good work. I would advise the board to follow Jeff's lead and vote for this, because it is going to save the people an awful lot of money.
Well,
it's not going to guarantee their increase in their investments, but it's going to save them increase in the paperwork costs. And that's where you can save it. The investments are going to fluctuate with the market. And there are a lot of people who believe that 3.5%, while it looks great today, in a year from now, we may be seeing interest rates where they have been in the past, and 3.5% isn't going to mean a thing, where that 1% will be there forever. So I would just like to point out that Jeff's done a great job. A tremendous amount of work went into it, and I would advise the board to accept what he's come up with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nolte.
Chairman, I have another question for Tony. Tony, with an index fund, it's pretty easy just to look at the fee, to pick to qualify it. But like actively managed funds, it's more than just the fee, it's the total return. So what do you look at there when you evaluate which actively managed fund, like the 3-year average annual, the 5? What's your benchmark for that evaluation?
Yeah, great question. So let me take a step back and tell you it's not just me that's evaluating the funds. We have a 10-member research team full of CFAs, Chartered Financial Analysts. That is their sole job and responsibility, is to every day meet with investment managers, active managers, and find the best performing funds out there for the lowest cost with the lowest amount of risk. So they meet on site in our offices. They go kick the tires, so to speak, in the investment managers' offices, meet the people, the decision makers. But it's a variety of metrics. We're looking at quantitative metrics. We'll spend a lot of time looking at 3, 5, 10-year returns, net of expenses. We look at a variety of risk-adjusted measures. I don't want to get too far down in the weeds here, but we'll look at things like Sharpe ratios, which show risk-adjusted rates of return, alphas, betas. So it's a comprehensive process. Our research group meets on a quarterly basis. All of the consultants, investment consultants in our firm, take part in that process. So it's a very in-depth process. A lot of people working at that, living, eating, breathing investment markets and investment managers looking for the best performing vehicles out there.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Anything further? Yes.
Just wanted to say one other thing in closing. A couple things, we understand that this is the employees' money. We fully respect that, and understand the feeling that we may be moving their money around, so we take that very seriously. I do want to mention that folks feel like they've made an investment choice, but those were limited investment choices. The choices that we had given them in the past, I would say they were suboptimal because we hadn't done our homework the way that we're doing it now this time. So I want to thank Jeff for that. I will say we needed to do a better job of outreach to the employees on the front end. We did reach out to the Teamsters and the Firefighters Union, and firefighters did participate along with the constitutional officers. But we need to do that better, so we're in the midst of correcting that. We did some stuff last last week. We're going to continue with those efforts. I think we've got some great questions here today that we need to answer and get some additional information out to the employees, and then we can continue that dialogue with the employees and all the interested parties to make sure that we get to a better point by next week, hopefully, that we can have involved everyone in the process properly and vetted this fully, so that you guys can make a decision for next week. So
Thank you. Anything further?
Yeah, one last comment. I'd like to thank the staff of each constitutional officer that was a part of this committee. Jason's staff, we had Mike Simkoski there every time. We had Jennifer Hyde there every time. We had Suzanne Boyle there every time, representing the board. We had the firefighters union there who participated relentlessly each meeting. And significantly, as I might add. And so we had a room full of people participating in this process for over a year and a half, and I would like to thank them publicly for their patience and their dedication in this long process to get to where we're at now. So thank you.
And we'll thank you publicly and all your staff. Thank you. With that, we will be visiting this agenda item again next week after additional due diligence. We'll now take a brief recess. The meeting will now be called back to order. The next item is a request to speak by Robert Johnson from the Southern Christian Leadership regarding community issues, concerns, and social change. And if Robert Johnson isn't here, we could, I understand that. Thank you. No, actually, that was item 10B1, and Wanda Scott requested to be taken off of the agenda by verbal and written communication. No, I did not. Well, I did not. Well, we all got an email requesting that. No, and at the beginning of this meeting, you were taken off the agenda, and it's been stricken, so apparently there's some element of confusion.
Another organization. That was my office. My understanding was you had a conversation with Dory.
No. It was another organization.
I'm prepared. You did not have a conversation with Dory in my office.
Rashawn Green, that's me, Rashawn Green.
Ma'am, we can't hear you if you're in the audience. I need you to come forward.
I did not take my...
Thank you. I invite you to the podium so we can hear you for this explanation.
Well, I'm not sure if the confusion is that Pioneering Change called, because I called, we were on the forum.
Right, I'm aware that you did speak to Dory yesterday also, but yeah, my understanding was she separately talked to Wanda.
Mr. Chairman?
Well, at this point...
I understand that may or may not have been a misunderstanding, but it would certainly be fine with me if Ms. Scott spoke today and if it's okay with my 4 fellow commissioners.
Myself as well. Mm-hmm. And we'll just amend the agenda and return you back to the agenda. If it pleases the rest of the board, we need unanimous consent.
Given that we're already over.
I'm fine with that, Mr. Chairman.
I'm fine.
Thank you. Ms. Scott, would you like the opportunity to speak now?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. Welcome to the podium. State your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Wanda White Scott. Usually I drop the White because that's my first husband, second husband, something like that. Anyway, good morning, good morning, good morning. You know, I always like to start on a lighter note. I'm 4306 26th Avenue. I come before you and I represent probably about 10 corporations in Gifford. And we just recently added another corporation, which is Gifford Law Enforcement Policy Board. And we'll be adding a international chapter here real soon. I would like to say on behalf of the Gifford Economic Development Council, I like to give an attaboy to Richard, public safety, or what's his department?
Public Works.
Public Works. Yes, on 35th and 49th, that area is coming along really well. It was imminent threat, imminent danger, and by the work that was put in most recently, we got videos and pictures. That area is, I would say, in what we call a safe zone. I would just like to thank the county for the allocating the fundings. There are some other areas, and I will be getting back. I also like to follow up with letters, and we did send some letters most recently to the county dated April 3rd from the Public Safety Advisory, the Security Professional and Protection Specialist Corps of America, and the Gifford Economic Development. And that was sent, I believe, on the shortly thereafter, the 19th. So we are going to keep follow up with letters and so forth.
Ms. Scott, I just want to let you know that those letters have been directed and relayed directly to the sheriff, as the content specifically requested information on any actions, endeavors, which also included some open, active investigations, and we did pass that to the sheriff without delay. So he has been in receipt of all of your correspondence. Okay?
Okay. And those letters are also gone further up. So we're just, they started here and they're also going further up. All right. I'm also in the goal with our president, President Trump, which says, make America great. How do we make America great? It starts at the home. We talked about that yesterday at the meeting. It starts in your homes. You as a parent with your children. My community, 22 years ago, I returned back to Gifford to live here again because of a failed marriage and then starting a new marriage. I returned back to a community that had became a hood, a neighborhood. It was red line. What is red line? It's most people know what the red line. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut a few things out so we can move smoothly. But this area is outlined. It's an area on the map that's it's a critical. Redlining is a critical form of communication of a community de-investment that occurs when resources are made unavailable to residents because of high proportion of ethnics or racial minority living. Now, most of the people want to live up to the dream. We want to make America great. Most people want a few things in life. The American dream. Raise a family, a home, a car, excel as an entrepreneur, because that's the area I can speak from, or a job that will take care of their family needs and children having the same access or a better. What happened in Vero that concerned me when I returned back here, I know personally quite a few people that have worked 30 years in Indian River County, and their highest income was $25,000. Well, I made that my first 2 years when I left home, and I couldn't believe it. Well, it was so close to home, which was my mother, who worked for the Equal Opportunity Council right here in Vero Beach, 32 years, $25,000. So put that on the table. There's a reason why I'm bringing that up. But she's a high school graduate, had 1 year of college. You know, the American dream or making America great, for people of color, it just seemed to be such a struggle in Indian River County. Some of the things that are impacting people of color, and it could be black, brown, it doesn't matter, whatever. What are impacting it, one was when I returned back, our community being redlined. That was one. The other, school to prison. The EEOP plan, when it looks at jobs, who gets the jobs, a laborer could be people of color, 40% higher, mostly the males, and then the females run somewhere about 30%. Managers, the goal of becoming a manager or an executive branch, pretty low. Mostly females can excel about 1.0%, where a male, it's 0.001%. This is in Indian River County. School to prison is high, poverty is high, substance abuse high, home ownership low. There was a time in history when, I would say up until 1985, that was the goal, buy a home. But when things are redlined, there's different systems that are set up that prevents. Now, I'm going to try to make this cut out as much of this as possible, but stick to the meat. There's some other things such as gerrymandering. These are some things that we had talked about previous. I don't know if Commissioner Adams was here at one particular time. I talked about that last year. Racial disparity, that report has been in the New York Times. The incarceration rate, school to prison, is high. Now we have children 6 to 10 years old. Instead of being solved in the school district, they're actually going to the juvenile detention center, and they're actually, most of their minor charges are adjudicated to being adult charges, and they're given real life sentences. Well, that concerns me because the children are the root. When I die, they are going to replace me. But if they have records, they can't vote. If they're going to prison, we can't restore our community. Our sentences of our people of color in the judicial system is 6 to 1, equivalent to, I'm just talking about right here in Indian River County. And when the goal is to make America great again, we got to look at what is impacting the things that are making America great. What's happening here at home in Indian River County that's affecting the constituents who pay taxes here. Now, all of these things, I'm going to try to cut through. If I sound a little choppy, that's okay. The drug policies, it's a direct war against a lot of the minorities. People, I saw this one guy, he was pulled over. No, he was on a bike, and he had like It was less than a roach, or whatever you call a fingertip. The guy was given 5 years when people are arrested for bricks of cocaines and other different things, and they're given 18 months and programs and so forth. But anyway, that's not to be
Ms. Scott, that doesn't even, I mean, that doesn't even sound feasible.
Well, I'm talking
so-
about what makes America great, and I'm coming up to what I want to talk about. One of the things of the letters that we had wrote to the county commission and has gone out of the town, the concern of the heavy-handedness, the aggressiveness, the practice of implicit bias. It's unlike explicit bias, which reflects the attitude and the belief that one endorses a conscious level. Implicit bias is the bias in judgment of and or behavior that results from subtle cognitive processes. Implicit bias right now is the source of, I'd say, we've been tracking for 2 years now, from July 20th, 2015, our first female that we knew of that was injured. 6 white males right there off of 25th Avenue, injured, fabricated stop. 2016, we had 6 more injured, emergency room. Why is this significant? When the women are harmed, or I know the men are being harmed and hurt, but when the women are being harmed and the children, we have a problem. I said in 2016, if they do not get under control this implicit bias attitude towards the people of color in Gifford, Walbasso, Fellsmere, Oslo, someone's gonna die. Someone's gonna be murdered, not by the hands of us. Guess what happened in 2017, March 19th? We had a female murdered by law enforcement. I'm not against law enforcement. For 9 years, I'm the one representing the business and writing letters of appreciation, commendation, coming before you all to recognize, just like that line that was here earlier. I fought for law enforcement, but we got a problem. We got a problem. The sheriff is not open to hear. I just want it documented.
Ms. Scott, if I can, I just want to let you know now, there's nothing our board can do about the sheriff's office.
That's okay.
The sheriff is a completely separate
He's
elected officer. He's a completely separate constitutional officer.
Exactly.
There are cases out there that talk about there's nothing that a board of county commissioners can do other than approve the budget. I just want to let you know there's really nothing you can come to us today that we can do anything about on that issue. That's an issue you take up with the sheriff.
And I do understand that because...
And your time here today is about what we may be able to address.
Okay, I'm leading up
Okay,
to
so
that.
if we can draw it to that, I did not want to be
Yes.
the only voice expressing
And
that
that's okay.
opinion. We've discussed that on several occasions in the past, Ms. Scott.
Okay, and I understand. So let me get up to, because I had quite a bit, because I haven't been up here to see you all in a while, and I had quite a bit to say. And it's not about beat up the sheriff. It's about making awareness. Whether you can do anything about it or not, my goal is, just like President Trump, we want to make America great. And I'm looking at the things that are impacting the things that are making America great, and starting at my home and my community first, and the things that are impacting, whether you can do anything about it or not, you still need to be aware of what's impacting us. The one thing that we are seeing is a lot of people's rights are being violated. I have to say this, just hear me out. A lot of people's rights are being violated because of the noise ordinance 974.202, 7103, 30.27. And it's the application of the noise ordinance is the problem that we're seeing. the application plus the implicit bias, and then the people are getting hurt, harmed, and injured. Why? Don't answer that. This is just sort of a notification, because my concern is I want to make America great, and we want to have the same access to every American, same access. And because we pay some hefty taxes. And when we talk about services, rendered services, that's one of the things. The one that Richard provided for us in making our area, our infrastructure safer, that's a service. That also, okay, that is, hold on just a second, I done moved too fast here. But that is one of the things that's impacting the racial disparity, rate of incarceration, hiring practices, homeownership, redlining, gerrymandering. How are we gonna reach that goal? How are we going to be like everybody else as taxpayers? And then also the use of the heavy-handedness, the over-policing of the law enforcement. And then the one other last thing that I wanted to say, and that was about the people during the hurricane and the power outage, that how we're gonna, that the people, we have to have a plan. We dodged a bullet twice, maybe more than that, but we don't have a safety plan for our people that are medically dependent on power. I did talk to Mr. King after the hurricane, was it September last year? And then we had this power outage just recently, about 3 weeks ago. These are also things that may be within your power or not within your power, but I'm making you aware of how significant that is. We did not have any casualties, but we have a lot of people that are homebound, that don't drive, that up in age, and then we also have people that are young. Some people that are on food, devices that feeds them, and we have to have a plan in case we do have another power outage, a safety plan for our community. I know when my dad was sick and he had congestive heart failure and he lived in Vero Beach, whenever things went wrong, they picked him up, they took him to a facility, but we don't have that in Gifford. And we dodged 2 bullets most recently. I don't know who to talk to or who to get a plan for that. That might be an area that the board can facilitate.
Ms. Scott, during 2004, we sustained 3 very serious hurricane threats.
Mm-hmm.
And I will grant you that the first hurricane was we were prepared for, but it was also a learning curve. The second and third, we fully addressed. And I have to tell you that I was proud, and it was in my former occupation, I was very proud of the resiliency of not only the government, not only the emergency responders and the service workers, but for the people of Indian River County. And we did not have the challenges. I was the spokesman for the Sheriff's Office, so I did have the opportunity to have real-time data and information. And we did not have the violations, the gunfire. We did not have the overstepping of government. We did not have people rioting. We had a very peaceful transition and recovery. It did take some time. Look, most of the power was wiped out from Indian River County, and it was restored, not to the liking of all, not to the liking of many. You know, one day without power is a long 24 hours. And yes, some people did go out of power. I did not have power myself personally for 2 weeks. I had a generator. And I have to say that I never saw the fabric of this community get so tightly woven and supportive of each other than during those hurricane days. And when you say we dodged a bullet, no, we didn't dodge a bullet. We didn't get hit to the value in which was anticipated at first. And I will tell you that we now have a state-of-the-art EOC that's fully manned with ESF locations in every area. We have a great association with the school board, with all of our facilities, and we do have hurricane shelters. We even have pet-friendly shelters. And I think your energy should be geared towards on the federal level when FEMA said that they would not be here for certain things. Your local government, your Indian River County, has stepped up to the plate to ensure that people's health, safety, and welfare is going to be maintained to the best of our ability during a threat of a hurricane or other natural disaster. So I don't know where you're getting that information from, that there's no plan. We have probably one of the most admired plans intact, and we are fully prepared for any emergency response that we're confronted with to the best of our ability. Thank you.
Let me just clarify, because you're misunderstanding. We had 3-year-old Miss who lives on, we call it Possum Top. She was returned from the shelter, and she had no power. She's medically dependent upon oxygen. Then we have Vanessa, who lived in Pineview. She's on 3 machines, a heart machine, she's on a dialysis machine, and she's on a, she had no power for 5 days. Most of the wrong was Indian River County, not Indian River County, Vero Beach Utilities. FP&L had hits and miss. We have people that are dependent upon power. They had no other way than to call 911 for the ambulance to come and pick them up and take them to the hospital, because they had no power to feed either the feeding system, the dialysis system, the oxygen system. We had nothing in place, and power was out a few days. But recently, I think it was out till 1 o'clock. It went out around 8 o'clock or 8:30 to 1 o'clock. People that are dependent on medical equipment to live 3-4 hours could be deadly. So they flooded the 911 system in calling to take them to the emergency room, which could have been avoidable, because I'm sure that was costly to the county if we'd had a system in place just for the medically needy, not the people who are able, but the people that are medically needy. They didn't just some people, like the children that are in this oxygenated environment, and that's how they live, and they are inbound. We don't have a system in Indian River County. I'm not in Indian River County in the blighted areas. Vero Beach, we had one, because my father lived over by Marvin Garden, and whenever the power or whatever went out, they had a system to take him to a shelter. So I was happy about that.
I respectfully disagree that the shelters, when they need to be available, they're available, and we do transport without prejudice or bias in
That's
any
not
way,
what I'm
shape, or
saying.
form, and we ensure that people's medical needs are taken care of. You have to realize that during an emergency, emotions run high, and some people just insist on being home, and then they have civil rights, and then they need to be respected as well too. So we have to provide for the best in care up to the limit in which an individual wishes to have that care provided, if that's understood. Some people are a little resistant and want to say, no, I just want to be at home, okay? And nobody's going to put anybody in harm's way. And
That's
I
not the
still
case.
match our emergency response to any of the other 66 counties in the state of Florida.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just add to that, Ms. Scott. We have a special needs evacuation center at every time there's an evacuation order with people with medical needs, oxygen, IV pumps, whatever. It's there if they, but people have the right to choose to stay home, but we do have a facility that's special needs that has nurses, additional medical personnel that is there specifically for the people with any medical needs that need to be evacuated during a storm. Secondly, the majority of the Gifford area is served by Vero Beach Electric, not Florida Power and Light. I happen to be participating in an outreach event in Gifford on Saturday, the Gator Express books to the neighborhood. And I actually saw a few things from the Vero Beach Electric that I actually sent right from where I was at, some unsafe conditions or some things that needed some immediate attention, and sent those right in to the city manager at the city to get addressed. But electric issues are City of Vero Beach Electric for the most part. There is a portion when you get to the north that's FP&L, but I think the majority of it is City of Vero. Electric, which we're hoping that will change because Florida Power and Light's standard for storm readiness and durability is much greater than, I believe, the City of Vero Beach's network of wiring and transformers. So FP&L has been investing billions in storm hardening of assets, transformers, poles, lines, et cetera, that I think that'll be another benefit outside of the reduced rates for the Gifford community. Will be a better reliability of service.
Well, we'll follow it up with the letter. I'm not going to belabor the point, but we do have a gap, and I'd like to close that gap where we're short in our community, and we'll follow it up with the letter, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Sure.
And
Next item on the agenda is a request to speak from Robert Johnson, Southern Christian Leadership, regarding community issues, concerns, and social change. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Board.
Mr. Lang.
I speak as a missionary, not as any particular group. And there's one thing that I am proud of is we have young people, young folk who are engaged in the community activity. For decades, all across the country, we've been asking young folk to get involved, and sometimes they don't have the right mentality, they don't have a strategy or a plan, but you do have a team of young folk in Gifford who are starting at the grassroots in the neighborhood. They're reaching out, and I think that we pretty much exhausted all avenues. That's why we're here now. That's why I am here, to just convey a message and to be a bridge builder, to build relationships, because we're talking about a fragile neighborhood. It's very fragile and it's very tender. And I am here to say SOS, distress. We have a neighborhood that's in distress, and they're asking for transparency, and they want folk to walk along with them. They want their words, their message to be heard, their voices to be heard. And when we have cancellations of meetings and you have 2 or 3 people who they can't sit down and talk to someone in their district, you know, that creates a problem. People are hurting. I have attended more funerals than graduations. So people are hurting. We need people with compassion. I am a prodigy of a law enforcement family, and we have fantastic officers here. But then you do have some that do terrorize the neighborhood. And I am a witness of that. I've seen that happen. I've seen officers who are not approachable. And it may be 2%. They're fantastic officers. I talked with about a dozen of them earlier this morning. And we dialogue for a good while. But we need to address these issues, help the young folk who are engaged, and let's find some resolutions to a lot of these issues. Because this is the most advanced country in the world with the most barbaric behaviors that I've seen. I found something that really works, and it worked all across the country. It's called a family day. Now, our churches will have to get back to the duties. I don't know whether we have pastors in here or not, but they have to get back to their duties. and create a day where the law enforcement officers are invited along with the community. So folk can see the law enforcement as a family, to see that they're parents, to see that they're children, they have aunts and uncles. They need to see that than to just only see them as law enforcement officers. That really work well. And you know, and it's time that we need to take quantum leaps. That's the primary reason why I am here, so we can take quantum leaps and get and pretty much try to graduate from a grieving neighborhood to a prospering neighborhood. We have folk who are doing things constructive and productive. You know, they're still here. I'm trying not to call any names, but you know, help us to help ourselves. The infrastructure need to be fortified by folk in the neighborhood, and we're just simply asking for help. And when we vote people into office, and when we bow down on our knees and say, please help us, we expect someone to respond and show some kind of compassion or some love.
Can I talk to you?
Ms. Green?
She is with.
The organization that he speaks of is Pioneering Change Organization, and we're a community action organization. We started right after the death of Arteria Woods. It was started, fire was put under us after her death. It was not started just solely for that incident. We knew that there were needs in our community far before that incident, but that was kind of like the wake-up call, like, okay, stop procrastinating, things aren't getting better, it's time to come together to make it better. So that's why we started that organization. Our organization is about educating, first uniting, educating and improving our citizens and our community. We have 4 goals. Our first goal is to unify our community. Our second goal is to make our citizens self-sufficient. With making them self-sufficient, we plan to be an intermediary for them with resources, find out where resources are, provide them for them, teach them resources, help them so that they no longer have to look to the government, to any agency to get anything. They are able to look within themselves and provide what they need for themselves. And once we get them self-sufficient and educated, our third goal is to provide resolutions for the issues plaguing our community. Once we are educated, we will be able to come together, make educated decisions, and strategize to put forth a plan that will resolve issues that we've had plaguing for a while. After we put those plans in motion, our fourth goal is to create future leaders. We know that we won't be here forever. However, we can create generations and pass down that knowledge from generation so that even when we are not here, our legacy will continue, those issues will not resurface, and the people that we are raising up will continue to be self-sufficient and really not dependent on anything outside of themselves. So that's what we aim to do, and we will do that in a number of areas such as education, civic, political, cultural, and those are so we're going to put a few plans into motion. Right now we have the Neighborhood Watch. We are going door to door, meeting each and every neighbor. We know that most people will not come to our meetings and that you have to meet them where they are comfortable at, and that's at their home. So we're going door to door, introducing ourselves and talking about the Neighborhood Watch. The Neighborhood Watch will be great for both our citizens and also for the police department. That's why when we had our meeting yesterday, we asked the sheriff to attend so that he could show the community that, listen, I care, I'm concerned with what your issues are, I'm willing to address them. I have met you here at this meeting where you are comfortable, and now we can dialogue. And so we felt like that would be the first step in the part of being a catalyst for change, however the sheriff declined. And we also need you all, the board, just to be a part with us, because you are at a higher level than the community, and a lot of things that are decided with your board affects our community. So just to introduce who we are, and we are working for positive change, and we would love it if each and every one of you would support us in this movement. Thank you.
Ms. Green, thank you for your words today. And, you know, in full public disclosure, you and I have had several discussions regarding the composition of the group and the proposal going forward. And I did clearly indicate that it's got great intentions. I did remind you about the relationship we have with the Progressive League, as well as the NAACP, and many community leaders that have existed for many years. And we have been able to move things forward significantly with that relationship. I also look forward to a relationship with your group as well. However, I don't believe it is the right timing with, again, you said, you know, this was all spawned from the recent events that including the unfortunate loss of Alteria Woods, and some of the proposed discussion would have evolved back to that scenario, that discussion, that open, active investigation, and with the sheriff as well. So in all due respect, I could understand why you would have a declination for that environment for that specific time. That's not to say that this is not a well-intentioned or a good-intentioned community group looking for positive change. And I look forward to working with you on that accord, but not on the rails of any of the open, active investigations, any of the discussion. There was a discussion about relationship with county commission and sheriff, and I don't think that everyone fully understood how we are designed, that there is a difference, and I think I can call upon the county attorney to expound upon where the sheriff lies and where the county government lies in respect to the relationship with the community. And we do have an active part, and he has an active part, but he is an elected official, selected, and he is a constitutional officer. And he is in direct command and control of some of the decisions that you might have wanted discussed. It was apparent that that was being done. And again, that's with inquiries with the media as well. We don't live in a vacuum. We get a lot of information from many different sources, and I want you to know that our conversations are valid, and that it appears that you want to do something very positive for the community. I admire that. I admire it more so that it's something new, fresh, but I just wanted to add that I should hope that you embrace what has been done and has been long-standing for over 50 years with the Progressive League and their actions and what we have in this community and all the great things that are happening at the Youth Achievement Center. That and what a great change about Youth Achievement Center, achieving independence, guidance, and success. And I want you to know that we could work in a very positive way, but there was some cause for pause about the understanding that it might be a splintering of community.
Let me clear up some things for you. First, with the Alteria Woods case, that was the catalyst. We had the officer, Officer Chambliss, who was killed, right? So I'm like, okay, I need to be involved. And then they canceled the COPE meeting because I was going to be involved before that. And then there was the Alteria Woods case. So after that, it's like, okay, they canceled that meeting. So like, okay, well, the community still wants to meet. We met. Even if the sheriff came, it is understood that he will not discuss an open investigation.
Right.
We understand that. We even had a policy in place where the questions will be put on index cards, and there will only be 3 speakers: the moderator, the person reading the question, and the sheriff who is responding, or you, because I had also invited you to respond. the community just wanted to ask questions, to feel like the elected officials also represent them, that the elected officials also hear them. The difference, like he said, there are the Progressive Civic League, the Gifford Youth Activity Center. Those are long-standing. We respect them. We appreciate what they have done for us. However, the difference with this organization and the others is that we are not trying to be the citizens' voice. We are trying to give them a voice. That's why we had a community meeting, so that the actual citizens get to ask questions. Not me standing in proxy and referring back what was said to me, but you actually get to look at a person while you dialogue with that person. We're trying to change it. The reason why citizens aren't involved, most of them, is because they feel like they do not matter. And Pioneering Change is trying to show each and every one of them that they matter. We have absolutely changed our entire structure of our organization. We do not have a president. We do not have a vice president. We do not have a secretary. I am only the spokesperson. I am the founder. I'm the spokesperson, but I am on the same playing field as anyone who joins. Anyone who joins gets to put their input, and is just as important and is respected just as much as my input. We have committees where if your passion is the community, you're on the community committee. If your passion is public relations, you're on the public relations community. And there's no one higher than anyone else. And that's what we aim to do, to show all these people who feel like they're not being respected, they feel like they don't matter, to show them you do matter. Yes, we have community leaders who have been doing a wonderful job at keeping Gifford in the conversation. We're just trying to bring in more than just community leaders. We want the whole community to rally together and work together. The change that we want is going to take each and every person. That's why we're going door to door, because we realize that it's been the same way for a while. What do we need to do? They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So we're trying to prove we're not insane. We see that there's still a divide. There's still things that haven't changed. How can we get these people to work together? How can we stop this crime? How can we get more resources in our area? How can we make our people not dependent on these different programs or governmental programs or needing assistance? And the only way we could do that is, 1, to get them to unite, 2, get them self-sufficient, 3, have them to come together and plan and work to resolve the issues in our community, and 4, create future leaders who will continue to get this process over and over again, so that we don't refer back to where we were before Pioneering Change started.
Respectfully responded, and I appreciate your words, and they're well received.
Thank you.
Look forward to having continued relationship, dialogue, and results. Okay. But I just wanted to say that your presentation today is, and respectfully, it's a little different from, I believe there was a little bit more emotions about the incidents in the community, and I believe it was driven by a lot of community concern, and I think it reflected very clearly. And I want you to know today was, you can shake your head all you want, Ms. Wanda Scott, thank you. But I want you to know, because we're here for something positive, okay? And I just want you to know that I look forward to bringing all of the groups together, because the splintering of groups.
We don't plan to reinvent the wheel.
independence.
We are currently working with the NAACP education chair with educational issues. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. I don't know how we got the perception that we're not working with anyone. As we stated, we're trying to unify all together. And what we're doing now, though, we're focused on getting people who aren't normally involved. The people who are involved in those organizations, they have a standing, so we're trying to get the other people involved, and then we will all come together, different memberships, people will join different organizations, but at first you just have to get the attention of the people, right? And so that's what we're trying to do, just get the attention of the people. And just to give you a background, like you say, we're acting off of emotion. I am acting off of emotion. In 2007, my uncle, Byron Green, was killed by a sheriff deputy in his yard. In 2015, my cousin, Reggie Davis, was killed by someone who he considered to be a friend. He was giving them a ride to the store. And then just last month, they convicted one of the people for murdering him. So for me, it is more personal, because I saw I saw the law enforcement side where the people are apprehensive of law enforcement, but I also have that side where the people do need to work with law enforcement to solve these crimes. And so that's what I'm trying to help the community understand. I really plan to be, our organization to be that liaison, to bridge the gap between our elected officials and our sheriff. And for me, it's really just baffling to even see how any negativity could derive from such a positive idea and positive movement. Most things that we do in life is based off emotion. Most of our goals is based off emotion or personal experiences. So that is not foreign to any movement. Most movements happen because people wake up and decide that I've stood by long enough. It's time for us to do something to make change. And that's exactly. So emotion is good. The more passionate the people are, the more determined they are to walk those streets, to knock on those doors, and to not take no. We're not going to take no. We will harass citizens until they decide, like, if these people come one more time to my door, I'll just go to a meeting to see what it's about. And that's exactly, like Jehovah's Witnesses, that's what they do. They don't care. They will stand at your door and talk to you regardless of how many times you ignore them. They'll be back next Saturday. And we're the Jehovah's Witness now of the Gifford community.
Let me say one thing.
I'm very happy to have everybody embrace inner belief.
Chairman, I totally agree with you. It's just a little early because the emotions are raw. But my primary reason for asking to speak to you guys was to allow the healing to begin. That's why I asked for a family day. I don't know whether you guys can expedite this, but I know we do have to get the churches involved, get our sheriff involved, and have a family day. And that the healing will begin then when they see that our law enforcement are human beings. And again, thank you guys. Thank you for taking the time out. It means a lot to all of us that you all did take your time to hear us, to hear our voices. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Woolfolk would like to speak to you.
Freddie Woolfolk, 4590 57th Avenue. Just want to clear the air a little bit. Number one, Gifford is in a transition. We're not in turmoil. The transition is, there is a new group that's coming about, and I've met with them, and I've spoken with Michonne Green, and I spoke with some others. So we don't feel there's a threat or divide. I went to the meeting over at St. Elizabeth, and I was very impressed. It reminded me of about 34 years ago, when I was a young person who felt that things weren't going the way they should go. And at that time, Ralph Lundy was president of the Progressive Civic League. And I kind of wanted to see some more movement take place. And I kind of voiced some of my discontentment with what was going on. And I'm so happy, I'm really happy to see young people with this new group coming together to fight for justice, fairness, and equity in our community. It reminds me of the United States of America. We don't look for the Navy to do all the fighting, or the Army, or the Marines, none of those branch of armed services, but each one coming together to work together for a common cause. And that's what I see now. I see this group looking at a group that we have not been able to ignite, to become interested in the community. That door-to-door knocking is fantastic. The committees, doing the homework and not trying to resolve things within a general meeting. So I must say, we had a couple of street activities up at 28th Court and 28th Court and 45th Street about a month ago, where every Thursday we had a bullhorn, a mic just blaring out over Gifford, saying, where do we go from here? That's the question. As a former MetLife insurance agent, I used to ask that question, and they said, when you ask the question, the first person who speaks loses. So we asked that question. Guess what? People listen, and they came out and began to say, we need to begin to communicate more. So the door-to-door is communicating. We need to build bridges and where people feel that there's a format established where they can express their concern. That's what's happening now. So I don't want anybody to feel who's watching this telecast to feel that there's a divide in Gifford where Progressive Civic League and NAACP and the new group that's formed now is not communicating. We are. We already put on the table that eventually, as she mentioned, each one of those groups will meet together, their officials and officers will meet together to forge out a plan of action that will help us to know, number one, what's on the table. Because many times we can begin to think we need to invent this in order to do this, but it may be already on the table, you just didn't know about it. An example, we need to reinstitute what we used to call a Gifford Fund Day. Anybody remember that? We had to give it, and we stopped that. And to me, that was a division when we were passing up opportunity to find out, wow, I didn't know he liked basketball. I didn't know he had a good barbecue. I didn't know he can fry fish. Little things that bring a community together. Well, we want to do that again. Right now, we're working with the Pastors Association. Matter of fact, Macedonia, Pastor Richardson came to us asking that we consider doing that as a joint effort to bring out the sheriff, bring out the county commissioners, school board members, all those individuals to say this is a human being, and they do care. And we can take those blocks down that cause us to have walls that keep us apart. So I just wrote a couple of things down here. Is where do we go from here? We need to build bridges and relationships, getting over things of perception and find out things that are reality. And most of all, is just allowing people to feel that they are somebody. You are elected officials, and I think this is a great start for us to come here and ask for your assistance in making sure that we move in a positive direction. One other thing I want to mention before I take I want to say thank you also to Wanda Scott for being a great force in making sure that those infrastructures are being moved. See, she was the Navy. When we were the Air Force, we were too high. We didn't see what the Navy saw. So that's good. So I show you different branches do different things. And if we work together and keep communication, there's nothing that we can achieve. Thank you so much.
Freddie, thank you for your words, and I think that today, it might not sound like executive action was taken. Important action was taken. I think we had a little revelation, a little understanding, and a little bit more information, and it all boils down to those rules and relationships we always talk about. And I hear relationships, and when we hear relationships, we want to be involved. We don't want to deal with one specific group where we're pushing off on another specific group that, you know what, when it's all said and done, we all want the same thing, and that's a quality of life. So, looking forward to it. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I may respond, please. My name is Michael Marsh. I think the commonality that you're hearing today, Mr. Chairman and Board of County Commissioners, I myself do not live in the Gifford area. My children's family does. So I can say I am Gifford. We all are Gifford. What happens there affects all of us. What I want to say is I understand, I don't know if many others do, but this board is not in place to tell the sheriff what to do. I was told that by Mr. Solari a year ago. But what we can do is we can work hand in hand with the sheriff's office. And by saying that, right now we have a House bill. It's a sister bill in the Senate on body cameras, House Bill 513. Right now, there's no conversation with the sheriff's office, though we can't tell him how to run his office. But what we can do is, I believe, we can form a body cam committee. We need to get in front of the 8 ball. Right now, if it passes, this could be an unfunded mandate. We don't want that. So if the sheriff's office, and I've tried, the first thing I want to make very clear is I've tried to reach out to the sheriff's office. Major Eric Flowers is their public spokesperson. I may not be a fan of them, but I am a community member, and I have a legitimate cause, and that's for body cameras. My best friend, Corey Jones, was shot and killed in Palm Beach Gardens, and I'm proud to say they went to body cameras. Many other agencies, as we speak, the conversations are being had with the Vero Beach Police Department, Sebastian Police Department. Why can't we, at the county level, why can't we get on board? If nothing else, I know it's an expense, but so are lawsuits. We don't need to buy the body cameras, we can lease them. If nothing else, let's at least have the conversation of this emerging technology that we needed yesterday. And Mr. Chairman, with your background, I would be more than happy to work with you. If me, you, and Sheriff Lohr himself, we formed this committee with the community, we should at least do the research. How much does the cameras cost? What does the cloud storage cost? Because here's the thing, if we want transparency, accountability, and accessibility. This is where it begins. The Florida state statute on these body cameras are already out there. We're not looking for statutes. It's already there. These cameras have been out for years. So here's the thing. We want to be able to come in here and say, Deputy so-and-so was great today. Here's the body cam footage that shows that. We want to bridge the gap. This is not us saying, you know what, the sheriff's office is terrible. There's great things and there's great people at the sheriff's office. But you know what? Why can't we have this transparency? And if nothing else, and I'll be back before the budget to do a bigger presentation, but if we're not going to go to the cameras, can we at least discuss them? Because if nothing else, this is not just for the civilians. This is for law enforcement. God forbid one of them is involved in a shooting, and it's a justified shooting. Because at the end of the day, what am I going to do? Call a crackhead when something happens? We need law enforcement. I get that. And there's good and bad in everything. But what I'm saying is, when do we start this conversation? Multiple lawsuits. The sheriff's office right now is fighting multiple lawsuits. Body cam footage could either prove or disprove. Some of these payouts may never had to happen because we can go to the footage.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate his passion for body cameras, but it wasn't on the agenda. It's not part of the discussion today. You weren't going to get on the agenda.
Neither was anything else, Mr. Solari.
No, but I mean, there's a point in time where we have to move on. And your specific issue, I think they were talking more about the Gifford community. And
this is about Gifford.
Well, we are open, we are transparent.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Chairman.
I appreciate that you have such passion. We have spoke on another occasion. I look forward to speaking about the viability, the likelihood of body cams. It is, again, a complete, it will lie upon the sheriff's decision, but there are some merits that I would like to go over with you. We can do it directly.
I appreciate
so
that.
that we don't burden the rest of the meeting. Yes, it
That's
was not
fine.
on the agenda, so I look forward to speaking with you on that. And I do have a lot to talk about the
Likewise.
topic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board of County Commissioners.
I'm Donald Hart, 4295 45th Lane in Gifford, Vero Beach. I just want to add about what Mr. Warford Green and others have said about the Gifford community and working together. That's something that has been going on, like you said, for 45 to 50 years with the Progressive Civic League.
Thank you, Daddy.
Thank you. And then NAACP. And at one time, like Ms. Green, we started, what we had was the Independent Council. I was the president of that. And that's something that we started because we felt like there was more need in the community as well. It did not stand because of some things that was going on within the organization, but a lot of people who were in that organization branched out to the existing organization, became presidents and vice presidents, and they became more involved in the organization that was already there. So with a new organization coming in, that's not a bad thing. It's just that, like everybody said, we have to work together. We have to be able to communicate, not think about what one person is trying to do, thinking that is bad for the other organization. So we all need to sit down and just talk about how can we make this community. You make the community better, you will make the county better. That's all I just wanted to add to that.
Thank you for that, Donald. Appreciate it.
Well, my name is Tawana, and the reason why I'm here today is because of my son. And I just feel like I'm not here to talk about an open investigation with you guys, but I just want to know, what can you help with? What can you guys help with? It seemed like everything that was said today, no one can help with anything. But Gifford does have a problem. It's just then came to crumble down. And I have reached out to certain people, anybody that's up on leadership. I have wanting help for a lot of things, and no one ever contacts you back on anything. Well, there's little things that I need help with, like with my son, Andrew Coffey IV. And I just feel like if it was body cams and my son did do something wrong, because no child is perfect, any one of y'all that sit in them chairs are perfect. Everybody have things that they done had to overcome in life. And if it was body cams on March 19th, it wouldn't be no whether my son was right or wrong. And like I said, I'm not here to talk about my son's investigation because it is an open investigation. I don't want to say nothing You know what I'm saying? Anything like that. But I am here to say, if it was body cams that day, we would know who was right and we would know who was in the wrong. It wouldn't be no in between, because for one thing for sure, there's my side, your side, and my grandma always told me in the middle stands the truth. There's your side, my side, in the middle there's the truth. And the truth would have been those body cams on March 19th. We need body cams very bad in Guilford. And I know we're not here to talk about certain stuff, and we're not here to talk about that. We're not here to talk about it. But what can we talk about? If I can't talk about what needs to be done in Guilford, then there's no need for any of us to be here.
Ma'am,
and I want to thank y'all.
If I can answer that, and you heard from the chair, he said,
Let me say one. I tried with Darrell Law. I tried to talk to him. It's no talking to him.
Ma'am, please.
Mm-hmm.
You heard from the chair, there are a lot of different subjects that our board and our county can have a communication with regard to issues in Gifford. I know a number of them, Ms. Scott mentioned today, some of the issues that Rich has done with Public Works and some of the improvements in the Gifford area in terms of Public Works projects. And other community development issue items I know that Freddie, you worked on with the Community Development Department issue. But please, please understand, if there is any issue under the sheriff's office, like body cams or investigations or the like, if any of my commissioners got involved, I'd get a very harsh phone call from the sheriff's attorney telling me, you need to tell your board not to get involved in our issues because you have no responsibility there, Dylan. And he'd be right. And so the communication can still be open on all sorts of issues, and as you heard from the chair, welcomes it. But please understand, when you don't get a call back on an issue like body cameras or where an investigation is, they're limited on that issue. And there's nothing more we can do about that.
There was a question asked at the code meeting about body cameras, and he said that if he were to approve them, that you all, like, there's still the issue of budget with it. And I think that's why Michael Marsh was presenting that to you all, because in order for that conversation to be effective and really spoken out clearly, there has to be the sheriff's office, but also the representation of the county commissioner pertaining to budget.
And on that point, if the sheriff were to present something which had a budget issue with that, we'd be happy to look at it, but we're not in a position to tell the sheriff, no, you need to do X, Y, and Z.
Okay, so then he has to first approve, and then you will look at the budget.
Not approve it. There's been no request. There's no been discussion. I understand one of you may have contacted the media, and I did respond to that very clearly. We have no request. If we have no request, we can't answer the question. Okay. We cannot answer, if it comes forward, we'll approve it. If it comes forward, we won't approve it, especially when you're talking about one county commissioner, when there are 5 county commissioners that make that decision. It's a budgetary decision, and as Mr. Marsh pointed out, there are alternatives that do not make it a draconian budget decision.
So
However, I'm not going to discuss anything that has not been inquired, and in addition, you asked...
He said that he'll approve it, but it'll be approved in 10 years.
I'm not going to comment on what the sheriff said based on the fact that he's not here, and that's it. I think we've concluded this. Ms. Scott, we're not going to talk any further about this topic.
Not about body cams. I was talking to a company in West Palm Beach about iStreaming, where our community could have digital monitoring devices throughout our community that would also help with the people going, not door to door. What is the new thing we're going to do? No. Neighborhood Watch. It would also be a digital neighborhood watch, and it would be easy. They're actually looking for a community to test market that, and if we don't go to body cams, we could still have some type of digital monitoring, and that we would feel safe in our community.
Isn't it tragic that we cannot operate as a society without Big Brother hovering about us?
Well, we don't feel safe with...
No, that's one speaking. I just don't see any of that. Thank you very much.
It wouldn't cost us anything. They would want to test market it here.
Thank you. Yes.
And not for any response from anybody in the audience, but just in preparation of the next year or two, in case you haven't followed the legislative session. My mic's not on, sorry. This legislative session passed a change in the homestead value that determines how much property tax we generate. If that goes through and passes as it's written, we're set to lose about $5 million out of our county budget. Some of that's the cities, but the bulk of it is from the county. That's a $5 million cut. That's equivalent to losing 120 employees. So as we go forward over the next 12 to 18 months, as that gets closer to potentially becoming what's going to happen to our revenue into the county, we're going to have to look at a lot of things with $5 million less in our budget to work with. Yes, property taxes our values have gone up, but our cost for health care, workman's comp has already eaten up all that value increase. So if you hear you can read up on it. Speaker Corcoran, he's not a fan of mine right now because of spearheading this reduction of our revenue into the communities that we use to provide services back to you. That's law enforcement, fire protection, parks, recreation, libraries, you name it. Everything will be on the chopping block to make up the $5 million that they took away. That's not this year, but it could potentially be in the following year. So we don't want to get caught off guard, but that's a budget issue we're going to have to really look at closely. How are we going to manage that? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further? Next item is County Attorney Matters, which is a resolution amending utility sludge and septage rate.
Thank you very much, Chair. On May 2nd, 2017, the Board of County Commissioners directed staff to draft a resolution increasing the sludge and septage rate change per wet ton from $7.51 to $15. The board requested that such resolution be presented to the board today on May 9th. The county attorney's office has drafted the resolution. The resolution includes a similar change, an increase in the sludge and septage per 1,000 gallons. Please note that this change in rates is a temporary measure as the utilities department is examining a longer-term change for the rates. Simply, county attorney's office recommends allowing for any public to speak on the rate increase and then approve the resolution as presented. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. Any question of council?
Mr. Chairman, since I have a lot of questions and discussion on the next item, I'll go ahead and move approval of staff recommendation here.
And I'll second that. Just want to ensure that there's no member of the public that would like to speak regarding this. And I see Vincent Burke is approaching the dais ready.
For the record, Vincent Burke, Director of Utility Services. I just want to give the board an update. I was asked to contact some of our neighboring counties to get an update as far as what they are doing with regards to the shutdown of the facility. Since last Tuesday, we've seen a 53% reduction in the volume at the biosolids facility. Wow. Average daily trips to the site prior to the decision was about 20 trucks a day. We're down to about 11. And so we've seen a large drop-off, not quite the 2/3 that we're expecting, but we anticipate more drop-off as our local haulers do not bring in additional material at the end of this month. So we have our work cut out for us. I did talk to Martin County, Mr. Pauley, the utility director down there. They do not have currently in their system a receiving. They subcontract out to a company, Cook's Environmental, that takes only domestic material from septic tanks. No grease, no sludge. From commercial establishments, no porta potties. They have a very restrictive industrial pretreatment standard on Cook's because that centrate ultimately goes to their wastewater treatment plant. Talked to FPUA, Bo Hutchinson, yesterday as well. FPUA does not have anything in place, but they're going to do a temporary thing for some of the septic material that's in St. Lucie County. They're going to be opening up a lift station, if you will, to be able to transmit some of that material to their wastewater plant. I have a couple calls this afternoon with City of Port St. Lucie and some other utilities, but I just want to give an update to the board that we are seeing some positive changes, at least the reduction of that material coming into our facility, and hopefully after 30 days or so of the reduction, we'll see some stabilization in the plant. So I just want to give that update. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Burke.
you,
Okay.
Mr.
Well,
Chairman, I'd like to, after we move this vote, I have a question for Vinnie related to kind of the same topic, but it's not tied to the vote, so I'd like to bring that up after we take the vote on this.
let's see where that goes.
Okay.
All right, there's nobody else in the public who wish to speak. We have a motion by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Fine work. Thank you. Next item is,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Vinnie, once we get past the 30-day, the new start date, if you will, after the notice from last month's meeting, or last week's meeting, what plans do you have, or would you like to bring an item back as for ongoing testing? I want to make sure that, okay, we've eliminated the out-of-county material that's coming in, but do we have any in-county material that's causing those massive spikes? And it would be up to you, whatever you think would be the proper testing method to bring back. So one, to make sure, hey, we cut all the outsiders off, but gee, we're still getting spikes, or hey, it looks a lot better. So whatever, I would be open to have you bring something back at when you think the appropriate time is, next meeting or following, so you have the revenue resources to continue that testing. One, so we know where things are getting better, and two, also helps to have something, progress report for DEP if they ask for it, that our numbers are getting much better out there. So
Yep. Can I answer?
There was some discussion at last week's meeting about the additional testing. We did bring forward a budget amendment to get some additional testing for a limited time.
Right.
We may need to continue more than that. I think let's go and see what we've got here, and I think, as we discussed last week, we're going to need to continue to monitor the situation, and if there are loads that are problematic, we're going to try and resolve those issues, because we're still under a very tight constraint on the permit for that West Regional wastewater facility.
So two things real quick on that. Sorry, thank you. I want to thank Mike Smikowski, who was very quick to help us move that budget amendment forward, so I appreciate the efforts of budget. We had a very frank discussion with the DEP folks last Thursday. It was almost eye-opening in terms of some of the data. We supplied them with the agenda backup. And so they were not aware of some of the issues that we had just begun to uncover. Secondarily, it's become to our attention that some of the porta potties with the concentrated waste are also not accepted at other facilities for the very reason that we're dealing with right now. So we found out that there's actually some formaldehyde, 25 to 50%, that's actually used in the treatment of the porta potties. It's of course diluted down to a certain ratio, but obviously if that enters our waste stream, then that is a pass-through. So that's something that we're going to have to take a closer look at, that right now we're still accepting just for environmental issues, but certainly in talking to our counterparts throughout the area, there's reasons why they are not accepting that waste, or accepting it on a limited basis, like Brevard, that has specialized equipment that we currently do not yet have to be able to accept that waste. So we're going to be, as Mr. Brown said, taking additional treatment and tests to be able to see where those loads are coming from, to be able to then provide an update to the board.
Right. The reason I brought that up, I think before the prior 30-day window, we spent about $58,000 in testing. I may be off on that number. This is for 40. And if you see at some time you need more than the 40 that we've put in there to say, look, for us to really be sure. Also, secondarily, I wondered if it would make sense, instead of, I don't know how we did the per truck, but if you did a grab sample from each truck, and then you randomly tested the grab sample after the, obviously all the testing is done after the fact, but if every driver knows, hey, they're taking a sample, they may not test every sample, and I don't know what the best way is to get the best snapshot without having to spend an enormous amount of money, but leave the door open for you. If you see something that you need, or a better way of doing something, I personally would be receptive, just to make sure we think we're on the right track, but let's verify that we're
I think
ongoing.
that budget amendment is conservative. I think we'll be okay. Again, with the number of trucks that are coming down, just this past weekend we only had 8 trucks. And before we get 20 to 25 on a weekend. So just the volume itself to be reduced is going to help save when we're charging $38 to $40 a sample to be able to do those tests. So I think we're going to be okay, but certainly we want to make sure that we're grabbing every truck and making sure that we get an eye of what's going on there.
Okay.
And then we have some pretty smart people that are able to look at those numbers and do the charting and the trending analysis to see what's going on. So.
And then do we also, their log sheets, And on the pump outs, they're usually random, you know, somebody may get that done once every 5 years or 10 years or something, so it doesn't. But I don't know if there's any of them that are facility specific that's ongoing, reoccurring, to look for. Well, I guess we'll see what the test results show, then we can decide if we need to zoom in any
Right,
closer.
we're putting some additional resources, having somebody do the grab samples at the facility. We're having Heather and some of the staff take a look at the log sheets to make sure that there's no anomalies with, say, a residential house that's not getting pumped out to have 4,000 gallons, when it should only have about 1,000 attached to
right.
it. So we're going through our audit process and
Okay.
actually making some phone calls when possible to try to, just confirm that indeed that was pumped out.
And I think we need to continue to work with DEP, and I don't know that we'll be able to get them to see this, but at the end of the day, you've got porta potties. They're required if you're going to be doing construction. You've got grease traps for restaurants. You just have these. These are a fact of life, and they do need to be treated. There isn't a facility in St. Lucie or Martin County, and we're seeing why that is. But at some point, I think DEP regulatorily needs to understand that somehow this stuff's got to be treated. I mean, there are things that we need to work with our folks to see if we can improve what's going into the facility. But at the end of the day, this stuff needs to be treated somewhere. So I think it points to the fact that DEP needs to look at having a realistic regulatory framework so that we can manage this stuff that is a part of daily life that just needs to be disposed of somehow.
We're good, thank you.
Got it? All right. We have a motion by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next item is, the county attorney's annual employment contract. Counselor, you have anything to put forward before we discuss this any further?
To the board, thank you very much. Just my contract expires July 1st, 2017. I would like to renew my contract for another year. The contract has the same terms as the previous contracts, except that the salary amount has changed to reflect my current salary, which is increased based upon the same cost of living adjustment allowed for by other employees. County Attorney's Office just recommends the board decide whether to approve the agreement as presented and authorize the chair to sign it if the agreement is approved. Simply just want to thank the wonderful people in my office, between Bill and Kate, who do an amazing job, and Nancy and Christina and Sandy, who all are just phenomenal in keeping our office going.
Well, I can't make that motion being the chair, so I'll
Move
have to be
approval.
consistent, and that's second. That's a motion by Commissioner Solari and seconded by myself. And is there further discussion? We see Commissioner Zork.
Well, I didn't know if I wanted to follow Commissioner O'Brien's lead on the earlier investment practice. Do we need to postpone this for any reason? No. Just kidding.
Well, I understand he has a presentation tomorrow, and I'd like him still to be gainfully
Oh, that's
employed
true.
to
That would be
represent the
good.
county in very good fashion. That's my input. Anything further?
I fully support this.
I can't even get a take it, even detract. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for a fine job, Counselor,
Thank you very much.
and your staff. At this time, we will move to special districts and boards and the Emergency Service District affiliation agreement between Eastern Florida State College and Indian River County Emergency Services District.
Move
Move,
approval.
second.
And that's a multiple seconds. I think we'll have to go with a motion by Commissioner Solari, seconded by Commissioner O'Brien. Any further discussion? All in
John, this will help maybe get some recruits and stuff when we do this? Yeah, great.
That's the main thing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. Meeting adjourned.